Yep. Good. Oh, come on. Yeah.
What do you think about fixing it out and restart over?
On the sides, which really the place to live. Most people there to live, they don't need any items, not know what to do.
Yeah. And 191, Jim, go to me, minus 3.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Left to get them for the housing.
Well, it's true. It's crazy.
Okay, Jim, I think I have everybody on the list.
Okay. Folks in the audience, if you're all signed in,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Let's call the meeting to order.
Is this sign up sheet? On
I
that
have
desk?
it right here.
Oh,
well, this was blank, yeah.
He's looking to sign in, I couldn't find it.
Oh, okay.
Ready?
I just want to check, Judy, can you hear us?
Yes, you just cut out for a little bit, though.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Looks like you have a couple of slides with people zooming in. It says, what I'm looking at, it says 4 or 5.
No, we have several, there's 4 pages.
Yeah, okay, did you, I'm just making sure you got everybody.
Yeah, I believe so. But, oh, there's another page now. Okay. I got more people, all right. Okay, I think I've got it.
So call the meeting to order. First item, consideration of the meeting minutes for September 28th, 2022. Does anyone have anything? Oh,
Can I suggest one thing?
what page?
16. Okay, line 676.
Yep.
If everywhere in here it says, like it refers to you as Chairman Spanos,
Right.
this one just says Vice Chairman. Can we just put Vice Chairman Chenard?
Yep.
That was the only thing I have.
Does anyone have anything else? This is for motion to approve the minutes with that one change.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, that carries. Next item, continuing another business, site plan review and 2 subdivisions. Application for site plan review, SPR 2022, map 14, map 124, lot 66, and Mark Gagosian, DBA FC Loon LLC and South Peak LLC reconfiguration of South Peak Resort. Come on up. Good evening. So can you tell us what's transpired over the last 2 weeks?
Well, we've got, the biggest thing that we realized, after our last meeting was going through, the concerns that were raised, and primarily we were able to have numerous conversations over the traffic coming through the construction trucks coming around, not using the bridge, the Cooper Memorial Bridge, but coming all the way around. So we I confirmed that the bridge can be rated, what is it, E2?
E2 bridge rating, so that's what the engineer that Loon Mountain had retained to review the bridge. Had opined that that bridge can handle an E2 load.
Which is 65.
I think it's 60. It's either 60 or 65,000.
Okay.
We can get a clarification on that, so it's basically enough to handle a pretty good sized truck.
Okay,
So then we also talked to a lot of the contractors too, just about what size trucks they'd be coming over there. Can they load up a triaxle such to be underneath that? You know, can you do a concrete truck? And typically it would be under. If it goes over, it's because they maxed it out, so they just need to keep that in mind.
Yep.
That, hey, this is it, so we are looking to change the dynamics of, instead of it being everyone going around, to actually go back to the way it was originally, and we got some information from some people that were here before, the neighbors that were here when it first was permitted. So in working together, we said, yep, this is, we're gonna wanna make it so that all the trucks and construction that happens, they're told to use that Cooper Memorial Bridge and stay under the weight limit. We're gonna repost the weight limit properly. We're also gonna add some signage on the other side that is going to alleviate, put a speed limit sign back up, and different items as far as on the other side of the gate. And continue to work through a long-term plan, and we're diving in with engineers now to look through a long-term, so the bridge could even get a bigger rating down the road. But now this will allow for fire trucks and whatnot to be able to go over that bridge, alleviate those problems. And cut that traffic that was coming around with those big dump trucks driving too fast all the way around. Or lumber deliveries or et cetera. So then as an association, we can police that just as we were policing it the opposite way. To say, don't go over the bridge, you have to go around before.
Mhm.
Now it's just really switching it, so all the contractors will be notified and they'll be held to that standard as we move forward. So that was a lot of positive, just going through and making sure everyone was on the same page and working with the abutters.
Okay, where did the engineering report come from, all of a sudden reevaluate the bridge? Just,
So there's a lot of the reports that Lou was working on in the previous, so they had engaged that since I purchased the property, there's a stack of papers like this big. So I wasn't diving into the bridge at this point. That wasn't my first plan of action. Until when I realized that that was a big concern, we just refocused to say, okay, let's go through and research, and then Hoyle Tanner, I was happy to hear that we had some good news and could allow that to open up.
anyone have any questions? Paul,
Does the town have a copy of that report?
Yeah, I believe there was a copy of that submitted to the town in the past, but I'm not sure, but I'm happy to get a copy of it.
What year was that study?
I think it's last year, but I don't have it. It was, I believe last year there was confirmation about making sure, from my recollection of conversations, making sure there was a adequate for a fire truck to go over, even though that it was rated for a different, it was said to be a different size. And that was confirmed.
So can we get a copy of that? Because I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the town manager got one, but I
Yeah,
don't
so
have it in my
I'm
file.
happy to make sure you guys get a copy of that report. And then as we move forward, we're gonna be continuing to do more engineering. And all the things that were being done, though, we did get a lot more clarity, or I had my company got more clarity that Loon is doing everything properly as far as getting the bridge, inspected and confirming it's always in good standing. And so that's why we're how we're at now, and happy to be able to change things to allow this to mitigate some of the headaches that were being caused.
anyone else? Paul,
Yeah, I see tonight we received. Something about there were questions about the access to the water tank. Going through Westwood during construction.
I think there was a 91A request you're talking about.
Yeah, there was 91A request and we had there was a plan submitted. With respect to that, I know there was some concerns about. That,
So that's something that we, on our team, we realized that when we gave that easement to the town, that we're not gonna be in control. We're gonna offer that the construction vehicles that the town is, whoever is hired by the town to do the work, we will make sure they have access to go over the bridge and come over and be able to get gate access to get up, and to work. So that way we can be as accommodating as possible.
Anything else?
yeah, the. I don't know if we've got any resolved about the fire protection availability for. Hemlock. Do you plan to do anything about that before the tank? Because. The tank could be out for. There's no completion date set for the tank, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that we'll be relying on the town to give us back those details. But we're not planning on building and adding anymore, so we already did add booster pumps, so there was so little pressure. When I first built my house, I couldn't get pressure to my upper floor, I turn on faucet, there was zero pressure. So we did, in respect to knowing that there was a major issue, right, as the purchase was happening, we authorized to get the booster pumps put in. So we put, it was $100,000 plus Band-Aid, if you will. So now the pressure in my house, and I say my house just because I'm.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
up
I know
there.
where you looked at.
Yeah. So now the pressure is great in the whole house. They actually had to come in and turn it down. So we do know that there's, all the steps were made to make it best it could be. While we're waiting for that tank to be put in.
So we don't have a timeline on this tank.
Well, again, that's under the town's control, right? So the town is the one controlling that timeline on the tank.
So I did do some research that the town did pass that first, preliminary project review with Forest Services. So that was on the fall schedule. We're trying to do what we can to support the town and that, wherever needed. So we continue to offer up our engineers and our team whenever needed to try to keep expediting it. But beyond that, that's where our control has now left us. We kept our easement wide enough so the town had plenty of leeway to put the switchbacks in. To get up there, so that way there wouldn't be a delay because the easement didn't quite match. There's a major boulder that they couldn't get around and now we gotta go back. So we've got on a conference call with different, outside consultants and Forest Services to try to say, if there's anything we can do to speed this up, we wanna do it. In the meantime, we're gonna continue to monitor, make sure that the water flow that is there is the best it can be. That's why they were able to release some permits going back, 6 months ago up on the higher above 950. It was because it was in response to the pumps that were put in.
So in the new Crooked Mountain development that you're gonna propose, those 6 lots. Will all those 6 lots meet the 35-pound, what's it, 35 or 32 that the state requires?
Yes,
They won't make
It's
that.
35, so they all tie in below 950.
They all tie in.
They all
So
tie in.
They'll have 35 pounds. Residual at the house,
The curb,
at the curb.
that's what required, that's what's required. Curb.
yeah, so that's where when they.
So those houses won't be having to have any booster pumps?
Well, yeah,
Correct.
there will be no booster pumps in those houses, they tie in below 950.
So one of the things that we did in this first subdivision, we wanted to make sure in the design of this that we were. Thinking carefully to make it be a good first go around. That in an effort to do this, we've been able to expose some things like the bridge and now that can. Help our neighbors and everyone can keep working together. And we didn't want to come with the first one and say, oh, that lot part of the subdivision, but that one lot doesn't work now. Like we wanted to keep it clean. And then hopefully keep working with the town, because the quicker we can get that tank built, it's good for everybody. And then we'll be able to go for more projects.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I've been talking to someone else myself.
Yes, the lot that's at the very top of the cul-de-sac is, that house is gonna hook in below 950. How will that affect the water pressure on the second floor of the house, if at all?
Well, again, it'll be a little bit less than the second floor, but
Right.
35 PSI is the design standard the state specifies
It'll meet the
at the
minimum
tying
standard.
point. So it's a little bit, it'll be a little bit lower than that, but I mean, my house isn't, my second floor, I have a well, my pressure dial down a little bit. So it's certainly manageable.
So the pressure it would be very similar to. When you have a specific pressure coming into the house. As you go up, you'd have to do other measures to, regardless of whether it was at 850 or 950. So we made sure the basis of design was covered.
Anyone else have anything else? We'll open up to public comment. Paul,
I have one other one, so when there's 1,018 units total.
Yeah.
When those are built, well, is it envisioned that all those homeowners and all that traffic will go through Westwood? Or have the ability to go through Westwood to get to Loon Mountain, or is it envisioned? Because I can remember it, and I was looking through this master plan we were given in 2006, and I didn't see the appendix for the traffic, but somewhere in there's a traffic plan that shows that it's not supposed to come and go via the South Mountain Bridge.
So always the intention was when it was originally permitted was that the South Peak owners would be able to go back and forth through that access point. But the design when it's built out, and one of the reasons why we see that not being is there's gonna be restaurants, lodges, skiing. So right now, there's no ski access. Like it's not as easily as ski access, for example, from Escape Route. So more people are being bussed around or driving around. As South Peak expands, the amount of skier services is gonna be much greater.
Down here,
Yeah,
but you said that it was always envisioned that the South Peak was gonna be able to go through Westwood to get to that, and I don't think that I agree with that, because the original plan was that all of the traffic was supposed to come across South Peak. And it was supposed to go back out South Peak. The only vehicles that were supposed to go from east to west were Loon Mountain vehicles. And if you look at some of the information that's available, you'll see where it was supposed to be shuttle bus service for homeowners to get from the South Peak through to the east. And it wasn't supposed to be traffic, it wasn't supposed to be Westwood homeowners either going this way. It was only supposed to be for Loon going. Only Loon vehicles and shuttle buses. And that was some of the concern that I had heard was that. If you figure out the traffic now, and then you add, when it's all totally built out, there's 1,018 units plus maybe a hotel or shops and stuff like that. And they're obviously gonna wanna go back and forth. They're not gonna wanna go out to Route 112 and then go back up, got across Loon, they're gonna go back to that way, so that makes that residential home owner in Westwood along that main road. Pretty much on a through road instead of a residential road. And that's one of the things when they were talking about the expansion, South Peak expansion, that was dived into a lot by the Westwood homeowners and EIS and the master plan, and that's why I think people have raised that concern.
I'm happy to look into it more. So it's the first time it's come up. But as last meeting, you mentioned and people mentions it's to try to take action and not just keep doing what we say we're gonna do. And as we have more things come up, we're gonna keep working to address it. We can dive into what was there before and what we're moving forward with.
Well, I think that, one of the things that I would like to say is that. When you come for a site plan review, the whole site. And that's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the whole site comes up for review. So whether it was in previous documents or not. If someone says, you know what, this is what it was before, but now they're coming back in for the site plan review. We've noticed that this is affecting us, so you might have to, work with them or come up with some.
I think that the nature of this project, to make it a really good, successful project, we have to work with everyone. We have to work with the town, we have to work with the butters, not just for like one meeting and then we're done. It's like, it's gonna be continual, because we don't know, there could be a whole different set of problems in 3 years with something that wasn't a problem now, right? So what I'm trying to do is in working with all the butters, and I say butters because it's not just Westwood, right? There's other homeowners, there's other dynamics at play in general. That whether it's working with the town to do the water tank. We are going to be good neighbors. We're gonna be willing to meet, go through, make things happen in a manner that is going to keep this a great project. As well as projects we're doing outside of South Peak.
I mean, I understand that, and I applaud you for what you're doing and you're coming forward. But I mean. If you take a look at the history of the town and some of their water tank problems, the town has put in the last, I think, 2 water tanks the town's put in. Were supposed to work great, but they didn't work the way they were supposed to be, either one. So for me, as a resident or someone that's on the planning board, I kind of look at it now and say, you know what? Let's build a tank and see if it works like they said it's gonna be built, like it's supposed to work. I mean, the one at Forest Ridge doesn't work the way it's supposed to, the one at the Village didn't work the way it was supposed to. And those were all engineered and everything was supposed to be great after that, so. On my part, there's a little bit of hesitancy to say, let's just keep building because the tank's gonna work, and that's.
I get it, I understand the history. I think that one thing I would say though too is what we're doing is we're doing everything in our power to help, right? So we posted $1.5 million to make that, so that we're saying, hey, the money's there.
Was that $1.5 million, by the way, was that a contribution from you or was that a settlement?
Contribution.
It had nothing to do with it didn't have anything to do with the legal case.
No,
No, not at
Okay.
all.
I was unclear on that, so I just wanted to ask.
so not only,
Just to make that clear, the history of that is that the town worked with Mark and basically asked him, pleaded with him to not build the tank that was approved back in 2006, but instead take what it would cost him to build that tank and give us the money. And we're gonna build a bigger, higher tank that would service a much broader area and really solve our problems. And he agreed to do that. And the 1.5 was basically what it would cost him to build the 325 gallon.
yeah, we actually rounded up to that because at
Tank.
that point we weren't being petty. We just said, all right, this is the debate, here it is,
Yeah.
the 1.5.
Yeah.
And the other thing on that, the court cases with all the other, the previous developer got into it with the town in a negative manner. We tried to help the town in that.
No, I think,
Um,
I understand, but I thought that was part of the settlement from
No.
what the previous one was.
I mean, yeah, that was my take, my understanding.
Yeah, no,
too.
and I'm glad we cleared that up because no, the previous owner. Who we settled with was. There was no agreement or
Okay,
friendliness or cooperation.
And that, the previous owner was trying to block it. So he was trying to do whatever he could to not do it.
Correct.
So the previous owner, the reason why when I bought it, the town came to me and said, hey, listen, we've got issues here. There was already pending, I don't know how much there was a lot of issues back and forth with the town and the previous owner. What I said right off the bat is, hey, this is gonna delay me, it's gonna be problems, this is gonna be a headache, but yeah, I mean, it's better for everybody. Instead of me going quickly, and I'm a year into the project now and saying, yeah, our tank's under construction, don't worry, we're looking great, and it looks. I said, all right, we're tying up the money. The other thing that we did, we tied up that entire amount of money already, so that money is now gone, meaning it's not even like we're saying, oh, someday we'll do it. We actually had to take $1.5 million aside. So that way the town knows for sure that the money's there.
But this is a letter of credit. that
So,
you put
yeah,
out.
but so that means that the bank has to put it aside,
Yeah, but it can be revoked, or is it non-revocable?
non-revocable. So what happens is for them to give a letter of credit, they can't take it away without notifying the town.
Right, but they can take it away if they notify the town we're taking it away.
Well, I guess,
I mean, I guess,
I don't,
I'm not saying that's gonna happen, I'm just trying to understand.
yeah, so the problem is by putting the money in with the bank. They're able to say, yeah, this money's, it's like an insurance policy. If you get it canceled, the town gets notified that that person's insurance policy is canceled. But then the idea behind that was to help expedite it, but also to make it clear that we're ready to go and they don't need to, there's no going back on it. And then we signed all the documents to make sure we were on board. Then after that, we put the $1.5 million up. We were asked to take a little bit more time, which we said yes. And then we also were asked for an easement.
Right.
And we just said yes. And we then offered up our legal / engineering teams to just help expedite it as well, in addition to obviously the money that we had put out. I'm only saying this because we're trying to do whatever we can to keep working. I feel like this project had a lot of your skepticisms. You're not the only one that feels this way, right? That, hey, there's been a lot of things happening. We're trying to do every single thing we can to move it forward in a manner that years coming, they're gonna say, yeah, it's great. Everything's going the right thing. It's going well.
So you settled the lawsuit with the previous developer, is that correct?
Correct.
And that one part of the settlement was the previous developer was gonna put up that tank rather.
No,
I mean,
That-
it's all public records, I'm not really.
no,
Okay.
I'll explain it. The approval in 2006 or whatever called for that tank to be built.
Mhm.
The previous developer had zero intentions, and he stated this publicly, zero intentions of building that tank. And was gonna do everything he can to not do it and didn't have any reasonable explanation or plan to address the fire protection or lack of fire protection up on Hemlock and all of the houses above 950. We presented him with the same scenario of, okay, you're not gonna build a tank, let us build the tank. You contribute X amount to it, and that's where the discussion ended. No way, he was not gonna work with the town, period. So he wasn't gonna build it, and he wasn't gonna work with us to build it.
And the other thing is we did is, even though the tank, well, because we're waiting on the tank. We had homeowners that couldn't get permits, and these aren't homeowners that we sold lots to, they had bought before, it's nothing to do with what my company represented or anything. We had a lot of people that want to build it in that section, so we made sure that the pumps that were installed, the booster pumps. And I'm not an expert on exactly how, but it changed living up there myself, I can tell you, it was night and day. The amount of water pressure we do have now compared to what it was, and then I know that Ron has told me several times that he has plans of how he would fight fires on there, because I asked him for my house as well. I said, hey, how would this work? So in the meantime, I think we're all sharing, let's get this tank built as fast as possible, and let's focus on the development below 950.
Will the houses that are being built today only have 4 bedrooms in them until the tank gets online? Or are you building houses bigger than the 4 bedroom?
Right now, all the houses that are being approved have been 4-bedroom. We're just been keeping to the 4-bedroom.
Okay.
So we don't have any intentions of changing that at the moment, but I don't want to condition lots that might not be built. Timing on these lots could be separate. So our attitude has just been as an association to just limit that and try to be tighter about the sizes of houses and what can be approved. We've had a lot of people that have had a tough process with getting their approvals from South Peak because we're getting much stricter about everything.
Steve, did you have a question? I see you.
Yeah, well, back to the bridge, just a stupid question, if you took off those Jersey barriers and put in a conventional handrail, would that? Guardrail, I mean, would that make it less efficient, or?
No, the bigger issues that we found out on the bridge is the bridge itself is in better shape than I was led to believe.
Yeah.
The issue was the previous owner was never planning on doing anything. So because they were worried he wasn't doing anything, they were trying to find a way to prolong the life of it as long as possible, worried that if there was ever a problem, he wasn't gonna contribute.
When you say they, who are you referring to?
Any, but even the association, the homeowners association.
And the bridge is owned by, who is it?
It's the bridge is owned by, I think the land's on South Peak, but we share the responsibilities, Loon and South Peak.
Is it 50-50 share?
Yeah,
So is that just in the maintenance of the bridge?
yeah, we work together where they honestly, Loon's pulled more than their weight. I mean, they've been the ones that throughout the last X amount of years, because until now we're involved, we can have calls and make things happen and agree to hire this engineer and we're gonna pay this, we're gonna do that, but before Loon had the same issues with the previous owner of South Peak as the town did. So they really just reneged this, make sure it was safe and did all these reports and made things happen in a proper manner.
But just thinking, I don't know what a Jersey barrier weighs, but I wouldn't want one on my foot, you know what I mean? If you took all those off, wouldn't that make it like better?
I think the issue is that they're worried about the guardrails failing, if someone drove off the bridge.
Yeah.
For pedestrian, I haven't dove into that aspect of it yet.
Hmm.
The bridge is something that, we're now in the last 2 weeks, I've learned a lot about.
Yeah,
And we're not done with the bridge. This isn't like, oh, great, we have our solution, we're good. We're gonna be working over the next several months and if not longer to make a long-term, there's a short-term, medium plan, or medium term, like long-term, like the way bridges work, and I was learning more about it, every few days as we're diving into this project. But there's gonna be plans, which is it gonna be an 80-year bridge, it's a 50-year bridge, what size, what size crane, what is it, how much use, so all those will be back in front of this planning board many times. And as we do, we'll continue to update you on what we're doing next as far as long-term plan for that.
Anyone have anything else? Is there a motion to open public?
Jim, if I could real quick, just show you one revision that was made since the last meeting, so I'll just hand these plans out. We submitted this application originally, we were still reviewing the ski trail easement between South Peak property and Ski Mountain. So this just reflects a minor change that we've had,
Yes. Okay, is there one for the public to see?
yeah, I've got some out back, I can lay out on the table back here, so essentially, we
Let you and Andy kind of discuss this with the board,
yeah, we essentially reconfigured, just, it's relatively minor change, we just wanted, this shows the ski trail easement now.
Okay,
And we just wanted the back of those boundary lots, those three lots to be contiguous with that easement line, so there wasn't any overlap there, so.
Is there a fire hydrant? In that 6-lot subdivision?
there will be.
So the pressure there would be 35 pounds? Yeah. That's really not a lot for a fire hydrant.
It's design standard to state standards.
Did you talk to Ray Corbett? Did you?
I can address that now if you want me to.
I think we should do it before we get.
Okay,
Before we go to the next one.
so Ray, I think Ray is on.
Yeah.
He's online. We had an email earlier this morning and he called me. I was in the notch when he called, but he ended up getting John. And one of Ray's suggestions is, the way we submitted this application, we submitted this as a new subdivision. So essentially, it's a new project, new lots in these different areas. If I understand Ray correctly, and I think I agree with him, this is the proper way to do this. He's recommending that we actually do this as an amendment to the prior subdivisions. So what that would mean is it would be an amendment to phase one of the original Centex project in 2005. There'll be a separate amendment to the MDR subdivisions in 2011 and the Crooked Mountain Woods subdivision in 2007.
And what's the purpose?
The purpose is it makes it a little cleaner. It follows the same flow of the projects previously. It makes it a little cleaner for title purposes as well, when these plans are filed in the registry. So, in essence, somebody will, when they go to look for Crooked Mountain Woods, they'll follow this title chain that will lead to the final amendment. It's a lot more drafting for me, but we'd have to essentially redraft these plans. It's a relatively simple thing to do, but it is a cleaner way to do it. Maybe Ray can explain to you what his thinking was.
Ray, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think, I agree with those comments. And in addition to that, I think it's, it actually, what I've noticed is, I've noticed that the planning board's struggling a little bit about, what was formally approved versus, what is the revision to the former decisions by the previous planning boards. So I think what this approach will do, it'll give a more definitive picture and a clearer picture to each one of you as to what's being asked. So you'll have, for example, the subdivision for South Peak Phase 1 that was approved back in, I think it was about 2007. And then they're going to amend that plan, and you can clearly see what the revision is. And the other advantage here is that you may be okay with a revision to South Peak Phase 1, but you may have problems with, for example, Crooked Mountain Woods subdivision. Well, that at least lets the process move forward a lot more quickly. You're not looking at the total. You're not looking at all of the revisions across the board on one plan. You're taking them one piece at a time, based on the approvals that were granted by previous boards. So again, it'll add clarity. I think it'll add it'll make the process go more quickly. It'll be more efficient, and I think you'll be able to come to better decisions around the table.
Yeah, I think of them as pockets, there's a pocket that has to do with the single family home, like first phase 1. And they're slightly modifying the pocket by adding a few. And then another pocket would be that Crooked Mountain Road. There's part 1, and then there's Crooked Mountain Road part 2, which I'm not clear if that was withdrawn or we just, it does not show up on our tax map, so
It is.
before my time, so I'm not sure.
I'll look into that. So Crooked Mountain Woods Phase 2 was lots 100 through 125. Those are there.
Right,
And then we came in right on the heels of that. This goes back to 2007. We came at in what we call Phase 3. And that was lots 120, 125 to something else.
152.
It was never, I don't think it was actually even ever final approved by the planning board. I've never seen a sign.
Just phase 2 or phase 3?
Phase 3.
Okay.
The lots further up the mountain. I know it's not recorded. And I don't think it was ever even final approved by this board. I think that's when things kind of went down the tubes and it was withdrawn.
And I think the point here is we want to do whatever's the best for the town's record keeping, essentially. So that's really what this question is about. We're not presenting anything different, we're not talking about doing anything different. It's just from a record keeping standpoint, what's the cleanest way to keep this tracked in town files and for plan recordation and all that. So we're certainly happy to do it whatever way the board wants. And I think Ray can comment, but if the board, if we can get into discussion and the board can entertain, a conditional approval on this could all be cleaned up as conditions of approval either way. But that's really, I think, what we, I agree as well with Ray and Carol. This is probably a cleaner way from a record keeping standpoint, because then you can just pull the old, oh, this subdivision was modified. Instead of, wait a minute, we got a brand new subdivision that lays over these old subdivisions. But again, it's kind of semantics here. It's the same thing. So.
What's the difference between what you're proposing and what you're going through now?
There really is no difference.
Then why do it?
Again, it's entirely up to you guys as a board on how,
It's
sometimes
tracking.
just to track it easier.
It makes it
It was
easier.
hard for us to figure out, like, what are they doing? They have this, you have all these subdivisions that were previously approved, and you're adding a little bit here, you're adding a little bit there, but this is a new subdivision, this is another new subdivision. But they're kind of
But-
a fill-in, they're fill-in lots, and it just is gonna be a lot easier.
They can pretty much do whatever they want over there. As long as they stay within guidelines of the number of units and the water and sewer allocations. So. And then all they have to do is come in like they're doing now for their. Site plan review for however they change it, and they could want. Mark could decide tomorrow to put a hotel over in one section of it and change what was. Originally by one of the other owners, and that's fine, it just has to come to site plan review.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
what's difficult about that?
no, you're right. And again, this is a question for the board on the preference, because it really doesn't matter to us. How we do this, we can stick with the original plan if the board would like, and just do this as a brand new subdivision. But I think to Ray's comment, he was just trying to make it, and I think Carol's on board with this, was just trying to make it easier to track as the fog of time
And
uses things.
and
What was prior really doesn't make any difference, that's what's here now that we're looking at.
Right.
So any proposal you make, like the one you're making tonight for the 6 lot subdivision and adding those other lots comes before the board just like normally would, and the questions are asked and has public review.
no, we're happy to just keep
It
it.
doesn't matter to us.
Yeah.
We'll just, you say tomato, we say tomato. It doesn't matter to us. You guys-
Oh, hey, I just want you to change it, if it's not broken, don't
You have
fix
the
it.
subdivision, you're gonna have the amendments, but ultimately, they're going to part of the same homeowners association.
That's right. It's all gonna be the same. It's all gonna be treated the same. We're gonna have the same guidelines.
So if it's easier to keep it all as one, then it's up, again, it's up to entirely at the discretion of the board.
Anyone have any thoughts on that?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Keep it simple.
Right.
That's right.
It's not broke, don't fix it.
So not treated as an amendment, treated as a new subdivision?
Correct. That's why we treat everybody else when they do it. That's the way it was treated when changed the. Condos down along the river. So
So if I can just interject, so you're taking, most of the new subdivision is like 3 or 4 separate subdivisions. So you want to cobble them all together and call it one subdivision?
That's really what it's gonna end up being,
Right, so,
yes,
but of course, it helps with the title work too, so that. Someone looking to get financing,
and it allows you to keep track of which,
there's sometimes what we do it, with the suggestion, just treat it as an amendment rather than a new.
so if you want to do an amendment, again, for record keeping purposes and tracking purposes and documentation, we would recommend that you just simply amend the existing subdivision plans individually, rather than trying to cobble them all together collectively.
you're not cobbling, are you? If it comes in as one,
You're gonna sign, yeah, what they're presenting to you is a plan that you're gonna sign off on, a subdivision plan that the planning board will sign off on. That essentially cobbles together all of the 3 or 4 subdivisions that were previously approved. What we're suggesting is, rather than doing that, the simpler approach is to simply just amend it, like for the South Peak Phase 1. Essentially, what they're requesting is that of the, and correct me if I'm wrong on the number of lots, I think it's 67 lots there. They're taking one lot, splitting it in 2, and then adding another one. So they're essentially taking one lot and creating 3. So that's a net increase of 2. So rather than taking that whole 67 lots and cobbling them together with other lots on a subdivision plan, just amend the existing subdivision plan. It's cleaner, it's easier to track, and it's not only just easier to track for the staff today, but it would be easier to track for the staff in the years ahead.
Joe,
Just the fact we've done what Ray suggested before at Forest Ridge. If the whole development came in, the number of units they could build was phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But there's no difference doing what they want to do over here. So going like this, I would make it a lot cleaner. Keep tracking of it.
I think the difference is like at Forest Ridge, phase 1 was on this piece of land, phase 2 was on this piece of land, and they're all separate. What they're coming for here is they're taking this subdivision that was approved back in 2006, 7, whenever it was. And now they're gonna do a second subdivision that adds 1 lot up here. 2 lots over here. So this lot is gonna be in, we'll call it subdivision 2022. The guy next door's house is in lot subdivision of 2007.
Correct.
So to track that from an internal standpoint, seems like it would definitely be more difficult because it's not this subdivision and that subdivision,
Right,
this subdivision, and then this one guy's house in the middle of that all.
exactly. Good
Also,
point.
we're removing lots to add the street. So,
As a surveyor, I understand what Ray's thinking, and I do think it's the better approach. This is actually, we do a lot of work in Maine, and this is actually state law in Maine. This is how they do it in Maine. Every change to a previously approved subdivision is an amendment. So you have a continuous title record. And a paper trail.
Do you know when you were previous owner, and I think your company was involved, changed the additional condo units, I don't know if they're called Riverside? Riverside Terraces. There was supposed to be whatever, 3 or 4 more buildings there.
Yeah.
That got scrapped and they chopped it up into single family lots.
Yeah.
Was that an amendment or was that a separate subdivision?
Originally, there were 12 Riverside, they pared it down to 5. And that was. Those single family lots was the MDR subdivision, and. It was not presented as an amendment,
Okay,
but it was a little more logical because everything was just kind of flowing to the west.
I believe it was a subdivision.
it's on a separate one.
It was a separate subdivision, yeah, but it was almost kind of like a phase 2, whereas this is kind of all over the place, you know.
Right, that was all contiguous.
Yeah.
All those lots were next to each other.
Yeah, they were.
and we're open to whatever,
Right,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, no, I-
right.
And I think it's
We need
more
to
work
ask the
to go
questions.
way, more survey work.
Drafting's easy.
So I mean, this is really all 2007 or thereabout subdivision with amendments, is how we're gonna like us to treat it, well, that's what Ray's suggestions. I don't see anything wrong with doing it like that. Which, yeah, we haven't made a decision yet, we'll open up the public after everyone's done,
I tend to go with your thinking right now.
it's fine. Does anyone else have anything? Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment? Doug?
I actually have a question, and this might be more for Lincoln. Regarding the access to this new water tank that's going to be built. I get the engineering plan that was sent to us today, and it's pretty clear. Going from the existing water treatment plant to the new tank, what's being proposed. But what's not clear, and this is kind of what our question was about. Was how are the construction vehicles going to be getting up to this to build? Were they planning on using the roads in Westwood Acres? Which is what they use now, because it's the only way to get to the water treatment plant. Were they planning on using those roads? And then from the water treatment plant, then build the road up? Or were they planning to come from South Peak in that direction and go directly up? That's what we're trying to get a clear answer on, if indeed there's a clear answer.
Were you looking to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
I can, I don't think, I guess the question is gonna be more on the town.
Right.
Once we gave that easement, we don't have control over the contractors the town hires. So we're gonna offer to open up the, whatever we can do to be accommodating, just as we're gonna have everybody, the builders that work in South Peak, we can say, hey, you have to do it this way. The town, we gave that easement, we gave in an effort to be accommodating, we said, hey, here you go, like, it's really wide, you guys go. So I think it's gonna be a question that doesn't have to do with us as much as it has to do with the town. The neighborhood, is that?
And I think just to kind of flesh out the point a bit, the reason why this is a concern, and by the way, we all support, you guys, us having a bigger water tower for fire safety, it's a great idea. The issue is really the potential impacts of one route versus the other. Because right now, the only way to access the water treatment plant is through Westwood. It's through a road that the homeowners very recently in the southern part of Westwood just spent $80,000 out of their own pockets to fix up and refurbish and rebuild and repave on the whole 9 yards. So if the plan is to put all these heavy construction vehicles on this road, which was just, we spent 80 grand on, that kind of is a bit of a concern. However, if the idea was to come through South Peak, as I think Mark mentioned to me, he thought that was the approach, then of course, then it's not an issue at all, because it's not, all these heavy vehicles aren't going up Westwood Drive, as they call it, to get to Adamswood Road. Is that what they call the road at the water treatment plant? So that's kind of the issue, is like this road that was just spent money on to repair. Are we gonna have all these construction vehicles now going over those? Or are they gonna be going from South Peak, as Mark had mentioned, and not cutting through Westwood? So that's really why we're asking the question. Okay, the end goal of the water tank is a great end goal.
Yeah,
I don't think.
first, to clarify, the drawing that you're looking at shows no, I shouldn't even say yours, the earlier version of where the tank is gonna go. The tank is not gonna go there. It's not gonna go on South Peak land. It's gonna go up on the Forest Service land.
I think this is what they think.
Yeah, that's what Karina sent.
Does that show it up? I have the old one.
Richard, do you want me to show it?
Is the water tank on Forest Service land on your?
Yeah.
Okay, then,
Yeah, so the issue is not so much the tank location is.
Right, no,
The heavy vehicles to get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now, the only access to get into the, as you said, into the water treatment plant is over those roads. At this point, we're not we don't know where the tank is gonna go, other than higher than the one that shows in the original map. And, so I mean, I can't say, but right now, that is the only access, and I would think that they were gonna, I mean, they have to start at the water treatment plant and put a pipe up the hill. My guess is that they're gonna use that single access to do that project.
Well, but just the.
The plans don't show that.
To me.
What's that?
These plans show it on South Peak. So,
Yeah, so on the.
That's what I needed to get up there.
no, I mean the tank, it shows the plans that we have to show the tank on South Peak's lot.
So on the plans that was sent, that's today, and again, I don't know if they're accurate, it shows all the pipes going on South Peak land coming from South Peak. However, it doesn't show a driveway or any road where those pipes are going. Now, if the plan, if the town of Lincoln is planning on putting the road in the same location where the feeder pipes are, then that would seem to indicate it's going to be coming from South Peak and not heading through Westwood. But again, I mean, these are all the questions that we're trying to get a clear answer on, if in fact there is a clear answer.
It does show the road. It shows the road going up to the tank. The tank happens to be on South Peak property, because you can see the property line, and if you look at, we look at the other bigger one that they gave us.
It's the one.
The other one we have, this map.
This is dated March of 2008.
Right, this is March 2008.
That's all.
So I don't think
The
Yeah,
whole
that's-
purpose of this plan was to show, this was from the town's engineer. That the red lines on this plan were from the town's engineer to delineate the area that they wanted available for access to the Forest Service piece up above. So that's what this exhibit was intended to show, is just, hey, this is the area where we want to put this access road in, that they needed permission from Mark the town needed permission from Mark to build a road somewhere within those two red lines to get up to the tank. That's what this exhibit is supposed to convey.
So the road will be going up through those two lines somewhere to a tank that's above on the Forest Service property, and the access to that road will be via the existing water treatment plant.
So that's the problem. So in essence. Is that all?
It has to be. I mean, it's the only way, to get there.
Well, but then Paul, the plan is also showing all these water lines going from the water treatment plant in the other direction to South Peak, which could indicate that if they put a road there, the road could be right where the water lines are going in the other direction.
No, there's no road shown this. The road, from my understanding, is gonna go between those two red lines, am I correct? The access road,
Yeah,
The
easement
road
is in here.
From the water treatment plant up to the tank, it's gonna go in between those two red lines. That's what we have the easement.
right, and the access to the beginning of that road is via the water treatment plant parking lot.
That is correct. That is correct.
So therefore, the traffic will be going through Westwood entirely to build this water tank.
Unless it comes from South Peak through the gate and then up.
It's still going through Westwood because it's got to go over Westwood Drive, which is through Westwood to get to the water treatment plant, unless someone was going to be building another road. Right, so the
It's gonna go through a much smaller section of Westwood Road than it would be coming from the Loon side.
right, right. But again, the question really was Westwood Drive going, which is the road in Westwood, they're going to be utilized for the construction vehicles get up to the water tank? And I think the answer is yes.
Some portion thereof, whether you come from Second Peak or whether you come from Loon Mountain. Some portion of Westwood Drive and the hill, what do you call that hill, Whaleback Hills, that's still called Whaleback Hill, going up there.
So that there wasn't any plan to build an access road from South Peak directly there.
I'm not seeing that unless Mark.
I don't know,
No,
I
it-
get,
it-
get the,
again-
we get the easement, and that's kind of what.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's,
So
So if he were to build his own tank on his own land, that could be a topic of discussion. At this point, the town's building a tank. Crossing or using an easement to cross South Peak land to access it, the tank being on Forest Service property. And our intent would be to use our access.
and the town has the right of way to use that road.
Yeah, to the town water treatment plant. And put the pipes in the road in uphill.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, is this, while this is an important topic to discuss, it doesn't directly relate to what what Mark is here to talk about tonight. It's kind of a separate discussion that I think is really important to have, but kind of a different forum for that.
Yes.
and I agree. Can I just then make one comment? And yeah, that's why I wasn't directing it at Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that my comment would be, so if the plan is to use Westwood Drive with the heavy vehicles to go to the treatment plant and then go up the hill, then we would request all respectfully that when it's bid out, that the contractor of the heavy vehicles that's using the road that we just repaired, that there is a construction bond to cover any fixes that need to be made by the road as a result of those heavy construction vehicles building it, however long that process might take. That would be our request.
I will bring that to the board.
Anyone else like to speak? Sir?
Yeah.
I'd like to know, I'm one of these residents that.
What's your name again?
My name is Greg Reynolds, one of the residents that had to spend the money to redo the road. And you mentioned you're gonna bring it to the board. Were we gonna be notified as a butters that this is all occurring? Cause like this whole thing occurred and I didn't get any notice for this. And I'm in a butter to South Peak, so I should have thought I would have had something. Is there gonna be notices that I'll be aware when this is gonna occur and be approved by the town?
No,
I don't say, it doesn't come before site plan. I guess. If that's a request, I'd be happy to ask that when this is on the agenda that. Are you the homeowner associate that we notify as in a butter? you were notified through the homeowners association. Which is, I believe, the typical way to do that.
That's what the law requires.
Yeah. So, I would be happy to keep in touch and let you know when that's gonna be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, I heard someone zooming in.
I think Ray wants.
Ray,
Oh, Ray,
The new water tank is 30 feet higher. You know what? Our old water tank's 30 feet too high, we only utilize 6% of it. And it's put in. Maybe the other tanks, there's only hold, oops. It only holds 2/3 of the water, sure, I helped fill it. And I worked for one of the developers and that guy's the one to put it in.
I've heard of that happening in other places too.
We don't have good track record.
Thanks.
is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Sir, what's your name?
Gene Crowley, 82 Moonbrook.
Okay.
Just a question, are we just talking about the water tank? You're talking about everything?
No, the whole thing's up.
Talk about the site,
Okay,
as pretty much as it pertains to this subdivision.
understood. So we've been there for about 15 years and the traffic has been getting worse and worse. And obviously, any new homes is going to make it even more difficult. I don't know if you've ever tried to walk down that street while buses are coming and there's snow on the road and it's pretty treacherous and there's no sidewalks. It's a bad situation. People are out walking their kids with their dogs and walking to the trails. It's not good. So even though I know Mark doesn't control the road, there's a connection here between what's being talked about in the expansion and the conditions in Westwood. So I'm very concerned that this is the time that we need to address this so that not every time he comes in for approval for a subdivision, we're here talking about the same thing. It just seems like we're kind of dodging this issue. Now, my understanding is, Mark has had some conversations with Doug, and there's some understanding that some of these issues are gonna get worked out over the next couple of months. But what I don't want to do is miss our opportunity to say, hey, wait a second. Let's not dive into this until we think through the entire problem for the Westwood residents. And so I'm not sure how to communicate that. I'm perfectly willing to give Mark the chance to do what he's talking about trying to get accomplished. But at the same time, if this is our one time to speak up and say, wait a second, we're not being treated fairly, this has gone on for long enough. I just need to understand what our position is.
So, Mark, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so what's good is this is a small, easy subdivision. We did that on purpose. We stayed under 950. We're gonna be back regularly. And every time they're gonna get noticed that we're back for another project. What Doug and I have gone through is to say, here's our hit list right off the bat. Here's what we wanna do. This is what we're doing to make it, to correct some of these things that I think really went awry. So I guess the big picture is this isn't your only shot of going through it. Nothing has to be finalized about long-term things tonight, because if this isn't like the finishing touches of this 1,018 units. This is a very small portion. So I think that we're gonna have some time to get the bridge up, reposted, signage, going through all those, move in the right direction.
Thank you. Doug has communicated that, but really, we're not gonna have any control over what happens there. You folks are gonna be the ones that are gonna be able to protect us. And it didn't happen before, even though it sounded like it was supposed to happen. And now is the time that I want to make sure that we're all, that there's some understanding that this is not an issue that's going away. But if you tell us that this is the time we need to talk about it, That's what I want, that's what I think we need to know.
What would you propose for a solution, if I might ask?
I don't know, I'm hearing that there was an agreement from 2006. I don't know why that wasn't adhered to. As a resident walking along that street, I would think from a safety point of view, somebody needs to think about a sidewalk. There's a lot of traffic and it's getting worse. People are driving up to the gate, turning around and coming back, flying down the street, icy, snowy. It's gonna be, there's a problem just waiting to be happened. You've got drainage ditches on either side. You can't get off the road. When you walk it, you zigzag depending upon which way the traffic's coming. If it's coming at you, you move over there. If it's coming behind you. And I take my hat off, I take my helmet off, because I gotta hear it coming. You know, so that's just one issue.
So one of the things that we're gonna be doing, that I talked about was helping with some signage, because I think that a lot of the people that are driving up to that gate, they don't have access, they're not, part of your homeowner association nor ours. And they're just trying to cut through, and I think that gate stops a lot of that. But if they're driving up the Loon and they get all the way there, then they're mad that they're stuck, and then they turn around and drive fast right out of it. So I think trying to make sure it's well.
Yeah, I'm not sure signage will stop anybody. When your option is waiting an hour to get to the highway. Or cutting through that neighborhood.
That's all. Where were you this weekend?
Tell you the truth, my wife loves it here and she said, I'm not staying here, I'm leaving. Because we get locked in there.
Yeah, it was, Gene, it was 3 hours on Saturday.
We're stuck. I mean, imagine living there, you wanna get a cup of coffee or a thing of milk, you can't go anywhere.
Imagine being a native.
Yeah, well. You know, we love it just very much ourselves, and that's why we're here. I don't have all the answers, but
Not needing to look at.
It seems like the traffic seems to be going from west to east and east to west seems to be the concern with homeowners in Westwood. So maybe,
But the traffic, I guess, what I just heard a lot of right there was about, for example, I don't think it was the homeowners from South Peak that caused all this, that 3 hour delay.
oh no,
So I think that one thing I want to make sure happens is South Peak is a partner of the town, of the community, of good abutters.
I'm not talking about 3 hour delays.
But
I'm talking about trying to walk up and down the street.
But so what we're proposing is to make sure we can police our neighborhood and what we're doing and what's happening. Trying to help you guys with some signage and whatnot to make the people that don't have anything to do with South Peak. Have the ability of saying, hey, let's not drive up to a dead end. To try to help alleviate that. Get rid of the construction. Equipment, the big heavy trucks, trailers. So we're trying to right away move in the right direction.
Right.
I don't think we're gonna have all
I
this.
said, I acknowledge that you're trying to do some things. What I need to know from the board is that we're not signing away all of our ability to come back and say, okay, this isn't working. How are we gonna fix this?
Every time he comes in, you'll all have an opportunity to comment.
but someone from the town should look back. Through the archives of records, and Carol gave me this. All that information from South Peak from a long, not too far along ago, I don't know who it was that came in, but. There's traffic plans that were submitted. For the approval of South Peak, there was 2 of them. There's the FEIS, there's the master plan, which talks about how traffic's supposed to flow. Shuttle bus service that was supposed to be used between South Peak and Loon. So, I mean, it seems like the traffic portion just needs to be looked into to see what's proper and what's not, and what was agreed to. But even given that caveat, when you come in for site plan and review, the whole site becomes available for discussion. Which means that if these homeowners are having issues, they have the right to bring that up at every site plan and review, right? So you do have that right to bring it up at every site plan review that they do. Now, if they're only, what percent built out now? They're 30%, that's what I saw.
I don't know the exact percent, but not a huge.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so you still have 834 units left. To be able to build, so based on, you know, the total of 2018, it's not that much built out, so they're gonna come in a lot of times between now and then. If we keep hearing, and I'll agree with you, it's been a couple of times through a couple different developers. That you guys have come in from Westwood and it doesn't seem like the issue's been resolved. So I understand your frustration, but somewhere along the line, someone's gonna look at it and see what's the appropriate action to take, and I would think that looking at the past information will give us some indicator of what that is.
I also think that what we want to do at South Peak too is not just for South Peak, this has to do with the rapids and downtown. And that, yes, we have a master plan that was approved that had the traffic studies, you know, it was well thought out. And then units were allocated, but the town's changed a lot. And it's gonna continue to change, right? There's a new hotel being proposed now, there's another hotel being built, as things are going on. We're happy to, as we're helping with the water tower, to participate in open conversations with all things to make it so it's not just a South Peak, Westwood problem, it's everything. How do we make it work?
And I think if you can equate what happened this past weekend, I mean, if you were to ask some locals, longtime locals, after this past weekend, would they want to see development in this town? They probably would say no, based on this past traffic weekend. So I don't think you want to have all of the Westwood homeowners saying on your back saying, we don't want them coming through our lot. I think that somewhere along the line, there's got to be a resolve. And the resolve is looking at what was agreed to before and what you're willing to do now to help so that you have a good neighbor next to you instead of someone who says, we don't want that development.
I agree.
Say another question.
Well, I guess the issue that I would like to point out is that at one point we had shuttle buses that were servicing Westwood, and that's not happening any longer. So now what's happening when somebody wants to ski, they've got hard boots on and they're walking up that road, and that road's icy, as Glenn pointed out. And if we have 1,000 new vehicles, just guessing how many more are gonna start coming from South Peak once it gets fully developed, that road's just gonna be a place, you know, it's just gonna be treacherous. There's just no question. It already is at points now when you have people walking up in ski boots and kids, and you know how that they spread clear across the road. And it's almost impassable at times. And then you've got the shuttle buses that Loon brings from South Peak, and they go flying down the road and they come flying back up the road. It's just, it really is an amazing thing to see when you have a heavy ski weekend going on. So I put that because I understand what you're saying, we can come each time, but it seems to me like now's the time to be talking about what's gonna happen when there's another 500 homes built there. And if they're all gonna have access to Loon via the gate, then that road's gonna be really a bad situation. So
I think the one thing we gotta keep in mind though too is that when there's 500 more homes, the dynamic is entirely different, right? That is there going to be more demand to not go there? Is Loon gonna develop more in different skier services that right now you have to drop your kids off, because I have kids that love skiing, and you have to come through, drop them off and come back, and then you come back, you know, it's twice a day. When that has opportunity to move to different areas of the mountain, including expanding on the South Peak side, it could actually reduce traffic with additional homeowners because it's additional skier services. Meaning, it's too hard to determine today. Well, if nothing else changed, no more ski trails, no more restaurants, no more, you know, rental. If you want to rent a pair of skis from Loon, you have to go through. We had 200 more houses, but they had a rental place, a ski school drop off, all this, we might actually reduce the amount of South Peak cars going through. So I think it's important to just be good neighbors and keep monitoring things and working together. But it's going to be a 10-year process, and every time we come in, we have another plan that's being proposed. You know, I'm hoping in the next few weeks. So as that comes in, we're gonna be right back at it. If when we come in, you say, wow, they've already posted the bridge, they're helping us here, they're all working together. And things are getting better than it was 6 months ago, then that's good neighbor. You're gonna continue to work. If things aren't going well, you're gonna be here to talk to the board and say, hey, they didn't do everything they said they're gonna do. This is not going well. And this is one of the reasons why we chose to come with a really small project. We pulled off. You know, we're not saying, hey, here's what we're doing and it's one crack at it. We'd rather be able to keep doing it, and so we can, as a development too, do it where it it makes sense for Southie to be successful. So it doesn't turn into the false promise project.
Okay,
Again, this has nothing to do with this project, but I do want to just to state that Loon Mountain came before this board very recently to talk about putting in their new lift, starting at like the bottom of Escape Route and heading uphill there. Right now, all of those cars that park at what we call the South Peak lot have to get shuttled to get onto a ski lift. They're gonna eliminate all of that bus traffic and some of the car traffic with the new lift. They can park in South Peak, get out of their car and get on a lift right there to go up the mountain. So I think that in itself, again, has nothing to do with Mark and his development, but that there is gonna eliminate a lot of the shuttle and vehicle traffic that goes through South Peak and through Westwood to get over to Loon Mountain.
But we just have to wait and see and continue to make steps in the right direction. This is gonna be a project where I think I'm starting to realize Wednesday is gonna be a day I'll be.
Joe, you wanna say something?
Well, if I remember correctly, there's supposed to be a big base lodge in that development in South Peak. The new lifts. The parking is supposed to be elsewhere off the property. How, if you bring another bunch, I mean, another except people coming into the ski lift off the road. Because legally, you cannot delegate the homeowners over the only one use ski area. That is according to Forest Service bylaws.
That's right.
You could have so many tickets available off the street every ski day available to the general public. That was part of the agreement with the Forest Service, when it's put in. I don't remember, you know that or not, but
Yeah, we're familiar and we're gonna make sure this.
a lot of people here don't realize that. So if they, at one time they were trying to get the homeowners to be able to take over the whole mountain, that was stopped. You can't do that legally because the land actually belongs to everybody. It's here. Now, it's funny how much that new ski, that new base lodge, they were talking about putting in. Cause even Dennis the shop was talking, putting a tram from over here going over to the new base lodge. Going across, I mean, there's more impact and more people going in. That's gonna be all incorporated together in the long-term synopsis.
Right, and I guess where I say it's gonna, we're gonna kind of let things unfold is. Those would be people that would take it in, based off what you're saying, if that tram goes in, and there's people that are coming across and they're walking over and they're skiing. It could be reducing cars, right, and reducing traffic. Because they're parked at their hotel, or, I don't.
The hotel is on people off the street. Well, the big problem I see coming in, we won't have enough parking for people coming off the street to ski Loon Mountain, which is discriminatory.
I guess,
But that's nothing with this.
yeah, I'm gonna,
That's what you.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with this.
yeah, so I guess as far, is there any other questions we have with my small lot?
Well,
Subdivision.
finish up with the public. Would anyone else like to speak? Mark?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that several of the homeowners from Westwood have made comments about a lot of things regarding traffic management as a big overriding issue, which it has been, and because, as Mark was alluding to, the prior South Peak developers basically were oblivious to these comments over the past 15 years. It's kind of 15 years of buildup that you're hearing now. This has been going on for so long. So part of the discussions over the past 2 weeks that Westwood has had with South Peak, Mark and I primarily have been the overriding concept of how do these traffic management issues get handled as he's going to be building out his development over time. And so at this stage of the game, Mark has said, hey, look, let me show you guys, we can be good neighbors. All of these issues that come up, we're going to deal with them, we're going to get these dealt with. And to anticipate every one of these issues right now is probably not really feasible. But I mean, I think that from our standpoint, we're kind of letting the planning board know that these traffic management issues really need to be dealt with as quickly as possible as things develop. And Mark has expressed a willingness to work with us on those issues. So regarding this particular application before us, Westwood and South Peak have kind of agreed regarding these 17 lots, this very small development, there needs to be 2 conditions attached to the approval. Now, do you want to go over those conditions, Mark, or should I, or either way?
The gist of it is, we wanna put the condition that we're gonna be posting on the bridge, that it's E2 rated. That we're gonna also put conditions that we're gonna tell all the builders that they need to travel over our bridge and stay under the rating.
Builders and contractors,
Builders contractors, yeah.
if you have a contractor
So
over
do
there
you
that's
have a
on South
list of
Peak.
all the contractors doing
Yeah,
any work
So
in there?
we, as an association, have a list because they all have to go to the ARB, so we'll be working to make sure that happens. And we can get, so we're gonna be able to be very helpful in that process, so anything to do with construction here, they have to be meeting with our association, confirming that, and we're getting now down to how much we wanna make sure the exact right trees get taken out, and, you know, so as as I'm also helping move forward, selling lots, like people say, all right, well, I need to build this and do it in the right manner.
So your property management company that's there, will they be going around or? Will they
Yeah.
be going,
Yeah, so we're gonna, we'll be going around, so our,
not going through the gate, because they have construction equipment as well?
so for small, like not, we don't do property management outside of South Peak, we're,
Or trucks? So. The traffic you're gonna limit, what is that? Is that just
so.
dump
it's-
trucks, construction vehicles?
Right, so it's
Is
a
it
big
any
plumbing van, so if it's, doesn't. need
plumbing
to-
van
yeah,
or
it's-
carpentry van or?
use the bridge, right, like don't, just drive, instead of. Making it so people are driving through, just ask, we're asking everybody that's building a house, whether it's a pickup truck or a triaxle. Use the bridge that's E2 rated that we've now properly posted.
And
How
so
we-
it should
how-
be as simple as, if we're understanding each other, that the condition will simply be regarding this is that construction vehicles trying to go to South Peak can no longer cut through Westwood to do it. They have to go over the Cooper Memorial Bridge, and that the weight load of 65,000 pounds, they are given notice of the fact they must keep their loads below that to be safe with the bridge.
But that,
And it's up to Mark, you know, to make sure that that's enforced by whatever he's.
I think you'll have to add a line in that says with the exception of Loon Mountain. All Loon Mountain.
Absolutely, except for.
Yeah, I would also, point like another engineer that I was talking to said you should, there's gonna be the time when someone needs to use you're installing a house at a crane. That they don't make a crane and that, so, you know, meaning,
Right.
there's gonna be the time where, okay, the wall needs to be lifted. So there's going to be days where, okay, today there might be 200 or 300 trips back and forth. We're trying to get it down to 2 or 0, then maybe 1, so that's. The goal of what we're doing.
How are you enforcing?
Well, the same way we enforce all of the bylaws, that they get penalties, so the builders have to post a $15,000 bond. Or not bond, but they write a check, and then we deduct money if they are parked on the road and they damage things, so if you aren't fulfilling those up, like, so what we mentioned, you know, we have people that are full-time staff that live here in Lincoln. You know, they're gonna be able to, you know, email in, hey, this same company keeps going, we're gonna talk to them, and hey, you've given them a warning, and the next thing is gonna get a fine, and when they start, I think when those fines start coming in, it'll be very motivated.
Maybe we should do that to South Peak.
Yeah.
And that way there,
I think that's fine, forever,
that way there.
Hey, in the town.
But in town, logistically, if the bridge is
Town
opened
does it.
up to a heavier load rating, aren't people gonna wanna use that route? I mean, instead of going all, I mean,
No.
it's gonna save, what, 15 minutes?
Mhm.
Top to get there? I mean, that's a lot of time.
I guess I think a lot of it in today's technology is that. We got GPS and stuff like that, so it might send them to Loon. And then instead of. Going all the way back, they wanna go through the gate.
I think
And then there's a lot of people that have. Codes or fobs and those fobs, they're all out there.
we're working on trying to solve that. There's a lot we're trying to do. That's why we're.
Hey, look, I've just.
Hold on, someone else.
Between the codes that
Someone
are
else
out
has
and
a
the fobs that are out.
I just have a question.
What's your
about
name, ma'am?
Ann Walsh. I live on Sarsaparilla Lot. So there used to be a sign down at the bottom that said residents Westwood and South Peak only. What happened to that sign? It's gone.
Do you want anyone to know anything about that?
Look took out.
Speaking of signage.
They're on, they can tell you.
I think they're all the way down my street now.
There's one that said no through traffic there as well, and that's gone.
So what, I mean, wouldn't some of that maybe deter some of the regular
Mark was talking about
traffic.
That's why I had already emailed, said that I was gonna put that sign back up.
Yeah, we've got photo files, just, you know, all the signs that used to be there when Centex was cooperating, which have been systematically removed. As the developers decided not to cooperate, there used to be a big sign that said, you know, no construction access to South Peak, right at the beginning of Westwood. So they would know they couldn't cut through, and that of course was removed when they downloaded the bridge weight from a regular load to 30,000 pounds. So we have all those signs, and again, between South Peak and us and Loon, Brian Norton, we're going to be getting those signs back up because those were removed because of, you know, for obvious reasons they were removed. So yeah,
And this is why some of these items we're just hearing about at the last meeting, right? So it wasn't till the last meeting that, like, I didn't know. That sign, I think, was removed well before my time here. So now that we're hearing it, we're that neighbor that's willing to not only say, let's quickly help, but yep, we have a sign team, we're gonna try to get them redesigned. When I say redesign, just add whatnot. And expedite that process, and we're gonna pay for some of these right away to put it in, so it's not a debate, who's buying this sign, who's doing this, I said, I'll just take care of it. Let me just get some signs put up, keep things moving and try to be a good neighbor.
So where are you gonna put the sign up? The previous sign was on Loon Mountain's property, so Loon Mountain decided to take it down and do away with it, and we own that sign. One of our residents actually created that sign and painted it. But it was on Loon Mountain property along with the mailboxes, they just decided to take it down. So if you say you're gonna create a sign, the question is, where is it gonna go? Because it's all Loon Mountain property above there.
Well, I'll have to work with Loon, and obviously I can't do something that's not on my property, so I can help by contributing, and I can help by putting something on the South Peak property. You know, but other than that, I
Not on
can't.
my property, which is right beside that little lot road that they're expanding.
He's the first house on the right as you drive in.
Pardon me?
I was explaining to Mark where you live. You're the first house on the right as you drive in.
Are you saying don't put it on your property?
No, you can put it on my,
Oh, you said don't, like, oh, Jesus, this is. Yeah. I
so
mean,
we don't have any hassle with no.
So what, then we'll work together, let's just, and that's where, you know, we've been talking a lot in the last few days, especially last week as well. So as we go into this, Jimmy's here, he lives up here full time, diving into all this, we'll get Lincoln sign and try to come up with a plan.
they actually removed your sign as well, by the way. They took our sign, they took your sign too. So.
And I think that some of what they do, you know, there's a lot of things that they're doing, they're cleaning up if something's falling down, and I'm sure somebody might have hit that with a plow at some point or something that, I don't know what happened, but I can see that they've done a lot. So, but let's just move forward and go from there.
Just fill in the riverbank, I'm sure they didn't get permission to do that.
We can, on stuff like that, we can talk to Brian Norton, the Loon.
And I know Ryan's been really receptive by.
Well, he's here.
So I wanted to go over the second point, you wanna talk about
You
this?
can mention,
Yeah, so the second point was the first point being the construction vehicles not cutting through Westwood as being a condition of the approval. And the second point would be kind of the construction vehicles that are going to be going to this new water tank. And I know Mark doesn't directly control it, but he is.
I'm allowing him to go through my property. But we're trying to be clear that we're okay with them coming through, so. They can illuminate some of the streets westward.
Right, so they'd be accessing it hopefully over the Cooper Memorial Bridge, that's what Mark is requesting. To access the brand new tower that's gonna be built. And I've already mentioned to you, OJ, regarding when they do go through Westwood on Westwood Drive, that we are requesting some sort of a bond. Construction bond for any damage to that road, that's really between the town of Lincoln and us. We think that's a very reasonable request, if there's no damage. And terrific.
We can't make that as a condition of this approval. because
It's
it's-
separate.
I get that.
Can I add something here?
Go ahead.
Jay Scambio, Lincoln resident, Moon Mountain representative, obviously as well. I think I heard Paul say we can't add that as a condition because you probably shouldn't. It's private property owned by the ski resort.
I said we
including
can.
I know you did, Paul, thank you. But I'm just making a point to Doug that that section of Westwood that you were speaking about is owned and maintained by Loon Mountain. The section of property of Westwood, which is in Westwood South, that you referred to being maintained by the property owners up there is past Adams Way or Adams Drive, whatever it would be called, where the water treatment plant would be and where those construction vehicles that would most likely move through there over a course of one summer would be traveling through. So we're certainly happy and interested in hearing the town being maybe willing to entertain maintaining our road if that's possible, but that would be something we'd want to talk through.
Good luck.
That would be something we'd want to listen to and talk through a little bit more. And I guess why I'm kind of talking, and sorry I'm not there, had obligations today, but we're interested in helping Mark, being the new developer in town and someone who's receptive to discussion and conversation. I think this gets us back to a position where we were years and years ago with Centex, where even as Doug had mentioned in the previous meeting, we had a developer who was engaged with their vendors and contractors and builders and making sure people kind of went where they were, unlike the previous owner of those lands. So we're interested in talking more and helping the neighborhood be better. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Go ahead.
You had asked me what I thought we could do, but this is a very small item, but it would certainly help, I think. At times, Loon had someone standing on the, on Moonbrook Road and would check people before they got into Westwood and turn them around if they didn't belong there. That would certainly be helpful, especially on the busier days when they know that they don't want to get out onto 112 and they're trying to figure out any way possible. A lot of people just follow the bus through the gate. You know, or they get stopped if there's more than one, then they turn around and come back. But if they can be cut off right at the parking lot where they did do it sometimes, which was great. I didn't mind being stopped. I enjoyed it. I think that would be a helpful addition if Loon could commit to that.
Okay, all right, so we can't impose that as a condition, but Jay, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. And respectfully, I do need to point out the current labor market. We do our best to, when we have people who are parking the children's center and beach lot, river lot, to, that, as you said, stop and ask where people are heading. But that is also part of the condition with Centex and installing that gate to manage and mitigate the travel through Loonbrook Road into South Peak Road.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Is there a motion to close public comment? Joe, Paul second, all in favor? Aye. Any further questions from the board?
No, we need to be careful we do here, because there's another 300 acres developed to the south of the South Mountain Bridge we haven't even looked at yet. And that's just gonna be like when that's all done. Yeah, I know it's summertime.
Paul,
We touched on the topic of bonding last week, and I don't know that we came to any resolve, but
yeah, it's in the minutes, the board, but you can talk to it.
is it? Did I miss something?
It says the board decided there was nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm fine with that.
Right.
I mean, I think Mark's got, as he said, he's doing a pretty small development here. He's gonna be back in. But I think between now and time you come in, what you do is probably gonna weigh heavily on
I have no doubt.
what happens in the future.
I'm with that. I understand that.
And we know you're gonna be around a little while longer because your house in Florida probably has some issues.
That it does.
Steve, you have a question?
No,
We're ready to vote on this.
Can I'd wait for OJ.
Okay. Let's take a 2-minute recess.
I mean, just so we have full board.
That's fine.
Mark's.
Steve, how you making out with your drainage? Nothing yet?
Flat. Talk about that.
So I'll make a motion that we approve this
Second,
Okay, with two conditions.
with. The only condition, would be that. Mark. Limits the construction vehicles. Access to. South Peak Bridge. And installs signage. To support that at Loon.
Okay, and he's further agreeing to use his land for access to the water tower. Is that,
Yeah, I think that the condition of putting my sign on Loon property, I can't,
No, but you, right,
I'll buy a sign.
you'll work, you'll work on that, right?
I'll work on that.
Carol, did you get that? Two conditions?
Limit construction, vehicle access. To the Cooper Memorial Bridge.
Yep. Construction and. You said you're gonna do construction and contractors.
Yeah, construction. And then I would say that the only event, because someone brought this up when they said they lifted, one of the builders that I talked to said, hey, when I lift a wall, I need a crane for a day. I know that crane's gonna be over. It's like all the trucks. When we say limit, there will be that limit. Meaning there's-
Right.
The day that they need a crane,
Well,
it will
right.
still be.
Not, no, I think, I mean, no one's gonna come at you and say, if you get one crane, that you're violating. your-
Yeah, so I just want to make full disclosure.
And
This
then
all
two
started
is
when they put the
signage to support.
interstate. We've been living with this for a long time.
Second. condition is to
I would think you would just
erect signage to
include that
support-
with the one, say with signage to support it,
Okay,
and just make it one condition.
What about the issue about the amendment versus?
I think we'll leave that the way it is.
It's a separate subdivision?
Yep.
I'm gonna pull, hold on. Joe, how do you feel? Amendment or create a new subdivision?
amendment.
Okay,
Amendment.
yeah, I think amendment, so we're gonna,
That's fine.
we're gonna treat this as an amendment to previously approved subdivision.
Jim, can I just make a point?
Yeah,
It's Ray. Yeah, so I just want to, we haven't reviewed any of the plan set, just from a technical standpoint. Just want to let you know that.
okay, so also subject to the town engineer review on the plans.
Are you gonna actually do? State and local permits and stuff like that, do we? need
Well,
to-
I mean,
That's all part of,
whenever they get. Come in, to build a house, they're gonna have to get a permit, and then if they're gonna have to require an alteration crane permit if needed.
All right, we don't need it for this.
Okay, you're
Yeah,
not
we
gonna
don't need it
disturb
for
with
this
the
one.
acres.
Yeah, we're under 100,000 square feet for this.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, so it'd be just local permits and then a couple of wetlands crossings.
Yeah.
so do you hear all that, Ray?
Yes, I did. I got that.
Does anyone else have anything? So is a second to Paul's motion? Okay, seconded. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We're all set. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Just don't do like they did in the original development. You know that bridge going over the road,
One of you guys
they originally put it in at 7 feet, and I caught him on it, they had to bring it up to 13 feet.
Very good thing.
They couldn't win, they could have gone under with a van, with a coolie rack on it, or anything, you could fly truck or anything.
People be doing this.
much more.
Excuse me, Jim.
Yeah.
Hi, are you all set with me?
We're all set. Thank you, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Great idea.
Yeah.
One other thing we want to discuss applying for a grant.
Maybe the word simple, that's why.
Where was I for that? I was the last week, so I seem to have lost my. Yeah, I seem to. I don't know what the hell I did with it, but I don't.
It's in here something. Like closed on.
Want me to read the letter?
Yeah, good idea.
Dear Jim and board members, the Board of Selectmen was recently made aware of a grant program administered by the state called Invest NA Housing Opportunity Planning Grant Program. This grant program is made available to municipalities for the purpose of hiring consultants to audit the municipality's land use regulations and make recommendations for changes to promote housing development. Each municipality may apply for up to $50,000 to conduct a regulatory audit. The audits may be structured to do any of the following tasks: identify barriers to housing development that may exist in the standards of processes, identify outdated regulatory schemes, specify changes to existing regulations, identify opportunities for new regulations, cross-reference different regulations to ensure that they are not in conflict. As we know, workforce housing is a critical issue in Lincoln. Strongly encourage the planning board to submit an application to Invest in H program. If the planning board supports the project, and this is from Karina, I have offered to review the application criteria and help with its administration. The applications are accepted on a rolling basis and will be accepted until June 30th, 2023, or when the funds are exhausted. However, if we would like to make changes for the town meeting 2023, I suggest we act quickly. Please feel free to let me or the selectmen know if you have any questions. Best regards, Karina Parker, Town Manager.
Does anyone have any thoughts?
We had a housing meeting, ad hoc meeting, just a group of people basically that met in this room. Kind of spearheaded by Jack Daly. And North Country Council was represented at the meeting. I can't remember her name.
So Michelle Moran Gray, or was it Tavares, Kelly Tavares?
That's what it was, Kelly. And she talked about that the part of this grant that was going to actual developers building is been fully applied for, although they're not all getting approved. But the municipality side of it, which is what we're looking for, there's still funds left. What the proposal here to do is to hire someone, and it could be, it doesn't have to be North Country Council, to go through our regulations and look at the various restrictions, zones, criteria that we have, and just make suggestions. Obviously, they don't have the power to change it, nor do we.
Right.
But what we can do is look at their suggestions, see which ones we like, don't like, whatever, and then we can present to the town in March some suggested changes to our zoning ordinance. And I think we saw this last week when Ryan came before the board and wanted to put in some housing, and I think there was, again, it was just conceptual, we didn't vote, but there was some positive remarks and feelings around the room, but we basically told them we can't approve it because like the zoning regulations don't allow it. And that, you know, if you want to wait until March, we might bring something to the town meeting and change it so you can do this. This would kind of do that proactively, instead of waiting for someone to sit in that seat and us telling them you have to wait a year. To look at them ahead of time and see what changes we might want to make to accommodate something like he brought before us. So again, it's a grant that's available. It will cost the town I don't wanna say nothing, because it's always gonna cost some of Carol's, I mean, someone's not gonna go up in a room and do this by themselves, okay? There needs to be input from the town. But the actual, work that either North Country Council or some other consultant does, will be paid for by the grant. And again, we don't have to follow any of their recommendations, but it certainly will give us, ideas to talk about. They're gonna see things that again, that I don't think any of us have the ability to go through and look and, because I don't have the experience. These people have dealt with, I mean, her in particular has dealt with other communities and other like resort-ish communities like we have. And can bring that experience to the table and help us be more proactive. So that's. kind
Yeah,
of what
what
we're
a
looking
big
to do.
problem, town law.
What's that?
The big problem we have is enough of land we can do it on, because it's 3 miles wide, 3.5 miles long. The second largest town in the state of New Hampshire.
Well, we had someone come in
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, they found land,
Yeah,
They found land, and we said no.
we didn't say no,
We
we
said
said no.
We said no,
We did,
unless the
yeah.
town changes their zoning. That's what we said.
What we said was we would support.
We said we'd support a change, but we said, based on this plan
So
right
we
here.
could not do it right now based on,
Okay, we said
we
no.
said we would support something like that, but that ordinances would have to change, and that's what we've done. Typically with a lot of things, I mean, I guess I get, the only concern I have, OJ, is that. We tend to support and do a lot of ordinances that people come in later on and say, geez, we wish we hadn't have done that.
every town has that problem.
And,
I mean,
and
even-
we've,
call
you know,
it
we've,
fault.
we've reacted. And you're right, it's a knee-jerk reaction that we do, someone comes in, we say, okay, you know, we think we need to pay attention to that, and we kind of formulate. Between the locals that are here, people on this board, what we think fits in, does, just like we're doing. We could have sent a sign ordinance out to a bunch of professionals, but we didn't do that, we said, you know what, let's take a look at it ourselves. And that was your suggestion, so. I mean, what, we don't have the experience of that sign ordinance to do that, we kind of got. We looked at what the law is a little bit and said, okay, let's try this out, so. I guess while we don't have to do it, I guess the question I would have is, so. In this $50,000 grant, if we do that, and having more information is always good. But who is it gonna go to? Does it go to the planning board for the review? Or is it going to the board of selectmen, and that's who they're gonna work with? Who are they gonna work with, the planning board or the board of selectmen or the town manager?
I guess it's a multi-stage process. They're gonna be directly working with the town manager will manage the process. Obviously Carol's gonna be part of it. Because she's the most experienced person in town related to planning issues.
Well, that's not
Right,
true, Joe's been here a long time.
So I mean, to answer your question, she's gonna the consultant will work with the town manager. They'll work with the town planner. Then as they get things ready and want either input or advice or questions, they will come to the planning board. But ultimately, it's gonna be the planning board that gets the recommendations. There'll be written recommendations and we'll go through and we'll talk about each one. Yes, we should recommend it. No, we shouldn't. We send it to town meeting. And you know. I'm not sure I agree that our ordinances have been. Whatever, rejected by some people. Anything the town does, there are some people who are for it, there are some people who are
It's
against
never
it.
gonna please everybody, I agree.
Exactly, okay, so this is gonna be no different. We're gonna present changes, some people are gonna vote yes, some people are gonna vote no. If it passes, some people are gonna be happy and some people aren't. Some of the people who vote for it might regret it later.
Yeah.
I've been in that, I've been
Yeah.
on that bus before.
Yeah.
But if it's just us thinking about it. And trying to come up with, I don't have the experience, all right? I've not worked for multiple resort towns. I'm not experienced with planning, zoning. I'm familiar with our laws and can figure out what we should and shouldn't do based on our own ordinances. But to try to change these to make it more inclusive, I don't even know where to start. We're gonna hire someone who has that experience. And I tell you, if we could get someone to do this for signs and have some other entity give us a grant to pay for it, I'm gonna vote for that too, because we've been going through this sign thing and.
Oh, yeah, we're still not.
We get tripped up over a single paragraph. So
There's another thing I've been bringing up over years. Remember Sand Green? Used to work with
Sand
North County
Green,
Council,
yeah.
Sand Green. I attended some seminars there in Concord, for workforce housing. There's a lot of programs that state suggested where we can implement it, what they call a development. In a certain way, and it's done in such a way, it cannot be sold for a major profit when the person moves out. Because it was somebody in the same work, the work, wage level. There's a lot of programs state has, we can look into also. I presented 10 of them to the town planning board one time, but nobody wanted to go and look at it. Years past, I'm growing, not right now.
Right. And again, we have a housing group that's gathering, well, has gathered once, but will do so in the future to.
Big problem we have is, all the developers want to come in, want us to supply them their help. And most of the development, to me, does not, is lower the tax base. We're gonna need $20 million in water and sewer in the next 5 years. At least, maybe more. And for 20 years, 30-year bond, that $20 million can be worth about $40-50 million in expenses to the town.
But going back to your previous statement, there are towns that have a thing that says, okay, on this piece of land, you can build X units. But if you put in X number of workforce housing, long-term housing, either on this lot or over here, you can have additional units on this same lot.
That's one of the programs I told you about.
And that's why I want someone to look at this and tell us, how can we do this? Okay, I don't want a program, I want something we can vote. Do we want to present this to the town meeting or not? Yes or no?
Because we came this close to having one in town, that's where Con's property is, remember?
This whole room was filled with opposition.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember that.
Mhm.
I
where
remember
they
that.
want to put it? With Billy Con lives.
Connector room.
Connector.
Oh, yeah,
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 yeah.
right
Dug a
after.
well, but what's stopping there, the well was poisoned. From chemicals from a certain neighbor. It's all cleaned up now,
The
but-
people didn't want them.
So, yeah, so I only have up to 8 or 10.
It actually don't spill, but still.
What's that, Jimmy? I didn't.
This package, yeah, it says page 8 of 10, that's my last page. So I don't know if 9 and 10 got lost in the shuffle, or if there's nothing there.
What packet?
We got this last week, in last week's packet.
Oh,
Page 9 was exhibit A. You have
Okay, I
that,
have exhibit A,
yeah,
okay, and then, then 10 must be the last page, it's blank.
yeah, that's all I have.
Well, it's not labeled as 9 or 10, that's why. I had-
Right, okay.
So, I mean, no matter what we do, someone's gonna come in with something that won't fit the ordinance, even if we hire these experts.
blame someone for trying.
That's always a possibility.
So,
well, we've had that, all right.
yeah, but so the other thing is,
Our link use on come in,
page 8, it seems to insinuate that whatever they come up with, we have to put it on the warrant. Says, depending on the grant phase, expected deliverables include one or more of the following. And the last bullet point says, a plan to move forward with regulatory change incentives or other means to increase housing supply and affordability.
That's their deliverable. You're gonna deliver to us a plan to move forward with regulatory change incentives and other means to increase housing supply and affordability. We take that plan. And talk about it, say, well, we like this one, we don't like that one, we like this one, but we want to change it. And whatever we decide goes to town meeting to vote.
So I mean, we're not obligated to put,
They can't do that, no.
no,
No, it just says what they're gonna
Well,
deliver
right,
to us.
okay,
the other concern I have with this is that. Like OJ said, there's gonna be staff time involved in this between Carol, town manager. I mean, and there's. I mean, if it goes through the process that you were saying, OJ, it goes to the town manager first and then Carol and then comes to the board. If the board decides that they don't want to support it, is it is it then gonna go on the warrant, or what happens then? So what if the town manager says, we think that's a great idea? And Carol says she thinks that's a great idea, but
Carol doesn't get a vote.
No, I don't get a vote.
no, I understand that, but her as the planner could say, this is, we really could do something like this, but yet, this, what if there's an indifference, how do you resolve that?
That's how you do it every time.
Happens all the time.
It's the same
You
way
just
with
vote.
the last 100 years, I guess not, since planning board was
You
formed.
just vote.
Just either vote.
You know, when
for
you're
it
three and
or
eight,
against
it's Rock
it.
River you use.
So what's the pleasure of the board? Do we want to vote on it tonight, or do we want to talk about it next meeting? I mean, we kind of get closer to the town meeting if,
Right, we should probably get on board soon if you're gonna do it. Cause this is a letter from August.
So you get a $50,000 grant.
we don't know how much it's gonna
What's
be.
it we'll get
It's gonna cost $50,000, be my guess.
I think they have a list of consultants, we can already, like, pre-approved list of consultants we can hire from. if they're ready.
Can town staff be reimbursed through this grant?
I don't know what could be part of it, it's labor.
I mean, if North Country Council or whoever can be
Says-
reimbursed, why can't
Well,
some
it
of the
says
towns?
task for administrative costs no more than 7.5% of the total project costs. So
That would do it right there.
I didn't hear this.
on page, you don't have it, but it says, budget template. Task for administrative costs no more than 7.5% of total project cost. 2,500 allowed for, community engagement. This is how she's gonna write the grant. So she's gonna build in some staff time to the grant, apparently.
Perfect. So staff time can be compensated for.
Yeah.
How does that, I mean, you're just gonna reimburse yourself for staff time? So-
Right, well, I mean,
No,
it's,
your time or Karina's time can be reimbursed.
it's a contribution to, to help taxpayer. Maybe pay,
Or
or
pay
maybe
for-
pay, maybe.
If
pay
Carol can't be
overtime.
doing something and someone else has to do it and they do it during overtime, at least
Yeah.
they might have to do it in overtime and it's gonna at least help pay for some of that, I would think.
Yep.
Grants will be made to municipalities for the purpose of hiring consultants to audit the municipality's land use regulations and make recommendations for changes to promote housing development. And this says grants will be made to cities and towns for the purpose of hiring consultants to create new regulations or revise existing regulations with the primary goal of increasing the supply of housing in the community.
So it can't be used to reimburse because they're not considered consultants, Carol or.
No, as Jim said, as part of this, the hiring of consultants is
If
the
you look
purpose of the
page,
grant, but
Page-
as he said, administrative costs no more than 7.5 of the total project cost.
yeah, so I'll read the first page, or 10, section 3, use of grant funds. Housing opportunity planning HOP grants will provide municipalities with the financial resources to hire qualified consultants, conduct proposed project work. Municipalities may use program funds for other direct costs associated with the project with prior approval of the steering committee. A maximum of 7.5% of the funds may be used for administrative costs. The consultant's costs may include time, direct costs associated with the project, and indirect costs reasonably attributable to the project. So I mean, the staff time, I would consider that a direct cost.
It's $3,700, almost $4,000, so.
Yeah, well, if we get the whole 50.
Right.
They might cost us 50, but they might say, Mr. Town, we're sorry, there's only 25 left, and we'll have to.
At least
pay
those
25.
trying to do something, if they don't try to do something, the state catches wind of it, and then they make you do something when you don't have any grant money, that's gonna hurt.
We're making good progress, as I believe, as far as meeting that requirement. We have the restricted multifamily housing. We're gonna propose adding it to more zones, maybe at town meetings. I think we're making good progress towards meeting our statutory requirements. But I have something else I want to bring up once we get off this.
But are you opposed to this for a particular reason?
I didn't say it was opposed.
No, I'm asking you, are you? you're saying we're making good progress, and I agree with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't say it was.
No, no, I know you didn't. I'm asking you, are you
I'm not
opposed?
opposed, huh?
Okay,
As long as it's not mandatory, then I'm not opposed.
Right.
Mandatory that we have to adopt what they say.
okay, yeah, no, I would be on board with you for that. I don't want someone coming in and tell us what we have to do, but have an expert come in and give us some advice, basically for free.
They're not free, it's gonna pay the price someday.
We're gonna pay the price, no matter if we do it or don't do it.
Right,
Well-
we're gonna pay, if we don't do it, we're gonna pay for someone else to do it.
That is correct.
So this is $50,000. It's not a set in stone $50,000, so it could be less than $50,000 by any denomination. And if the costs come in and there, it's $50,000 worth of cost, then the town has to pay the additional. Is that correct?
Mhm.
So can we
If we
commit?
choose to move forward with, we could say we could get a budget. And I guess we don't have the money budgeted, we can't move forward.
Right, well, I mean, I guess that would be part of the motion, and if we make one, that I would suggest that we tie something to the financial availability of this grant. That if the town doesn't receive the full amount, that we don't do it,
100% of the cost of the consultant.
right? That way there, we don't,
I'll say if you make that motion, I'll second it.
so I'll make a motion, we approve this. With the condition that if we don't receive the full amount of the cost of implementing. The, what do you want to call it, what?
Best NH,
Invest NH, that we do not do it. But the town does do
So
it.
basically, you want to apply for a grant with the provision that it pays 100% of the consultant's fee, is what you're
Correct.
saying.
okay, I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and one of the things it does say is that we need to include the minutes, so Judy, if you could. Fairly detailed minutes of what we discussed.
Yes.
Thank you, Judy.
Thanks, Judy.
You have anything else, Carol?
I have something too. Can we have an update on Forest Ridge? Do we know what's going on with the pond and?
Yes, Ray has been going back and forth with David Yeager, and David Yeager is not an owner. But he's agreed to help, he's been involved with them. And he's trying to get a contractor. He's having trouble finding, I saw an email just a couple days ago. And he's been going back and forth with Ray about it. But he thought he had a contractor lined up and. So,
Look. Can we put a moratorium on building over there until they get this thing squared away? Which will give them, and I know it's a harsh thing to think about, but at least it will give them some incentive to get this thing done. I mean, there's really no. There's not, and this is the last part of that development over there. So I mean, they're building every day.
they have pending permits.
How many duplexes are left to build?
So I couldn't-
I don't think there were too many,
Well,
even 2
there's
years
not
ago.
too many, because there were 4 duplexes left in the Pines. And then. I'm not even sure how many, I don't know how far he's gotten along in, the ones in the gardens, he had some duplexes there. And he has permits for all of them.
Is that a different association, or is that part of the same one?
No, it's the Pines is not a junior member of the association, they're separate. Because they haven't done anything that they need to do in order to be accepted by master.
Right, they haven't joined the
association.
master
But
association.
they do have a juniors, they do have an association or an HOA or whatever it is.
Is that association still in control of the developer?
I don't know.
Can we at least say that? Tell them that if they don't. Get this thing done this year. By December, that we're gonna put a cease and desist, so we light a fire under their ass or something. Because it just doesn't seem, I mean, it's always been,
Think-
you know, and until we, the board and the. Do something, then they finally seem to, then they finally seem to like move along, but. You know, why don't we say, just simply say, look, we're gonna put a cease and desist on you if you don't get this thing done. By this, I don't know, December 31st, whatever date you want to pick here, I mean, but. We gotta do something to get this thing going on.
I think in order to get to,
Pretty much.
to a cease and desist, we have to have a hearing saying they're in violation of site plan approval.
We can, we don't have to have a hearing to remove their, permit. We can just,
We've done it before.
we can just remove the permit. Make their permit not valid. I mean, and because of
They
their
have to make
violation,
their Conditions of approval.
that was part of their condition of approval, all that was. The fencing was supposed to be up, the thing was supposed to be done. Just say, hey, look, we're gonna remove your permit unless you get it done within 30 days. Be done with it.
We did that to Long Village one time. They're putting up an hotel, putting foundations down first floor, and they didn't even come for the planning, wouldn't even have permits. We had a cease and desist on it.
We did it over there before to them too, and started to move. And now we're back in the same rabbit hole we were before. What do you think?
Okay with that.
Yeah, so it has to go to.
I
the
mean,
administration.
it's been
8 years.
ridiculous amount of time
Yeah.
that we've been fighting over. I mean, the whole development has been built and it's still those retention ponds aren't
No,
done correctly.
no.
Um,
And to get them all the way up to here and find out that they're not built right, it just. For me, it's like, look. You know, winter's coming here, you know, we're into October, November, December. Let's light a fire under the butt and say, we're gonna pull your permit in 30 days if it's not. If you don't have a contractor hired and. We're working on it. I mean. Can we say that? We've done it before.
That's why he's gone ahead and built a lot of shells.
Okay, so he's got a lot of permits, he's got the 12-unit building permit. He's
I'm-
got,
I'm afraid of tying, because those are separate developments.
Right, it's the same development.
Retention
it's only
ponds
the pines.
is for the pines. So those big 12-unit buildings he's building,
Those are forest gardens, those are different.
it's a different,
Right.
yeah.
And
Well, as long as they're not tied, as long as the drainage isn't tied into the containment.
Well,
If the drainage is tied
It's
into the,
not, it doesn't
right,
cross the road.
it doesn't cross
It
the
actually
road, right?
goes The other
It's
direction.
going the other direction.
So,
So it's only the pines, so there's only, I think, 2 duplexes that are built
well,
or are in the process of being built there. I think he has permits for them.
yeah, but we could withdraw those or cease and desist them. In other words, we don't take them away, but he can't continue working on them until he finishes that. The retention pond.
Anything
Um,
that
can we-
flows into that retention pond, it should be. All it is, because it's a retention pond that we want to get built. The way it's supposed to be. So anything that requires that retention pond to do its job. To me, we should just do a cease and desist or pull. I don't know if we have to do a cease and desist. I think we could just pull the permit because of they're in violation of it.
suspend them, what?
Suspend the permit, yeah.
I think we're probably gonna have a short conversation anyway with, what's his name?
Jason Dennis.
Jason.
Dennis. I never can remember his first name.
Let's,
Tell them what we're trying to do and say, look, we
Yeah.
want to put strong.
let's have a conversation with Jason and have the letter, whether it's a cease and desist or a withdrawing of the permit, whatever is the right thing to do, come from the attorney.
And I think it has to come from the Board of Selectmen, because the Board of Selectmen
The,
are enforcers.
yeah,
Right,
So, I mean,
all right,
the attorney's the designee, basically.
the planning board to me should write. Carol should write a letter to the Board of Selectmen recommending that. And then from there, it's the Board of Selectmen's how you do it. Type of thing, I guess. Isn't that the way it works?
yeah.
Supposed to, anyway.
We can get a letter from Carol, or we can just have Carol contact Jason Dennis and have him give us the recommendation and just cut to the chase and
That,
talk
yeah,
about it on Monday with an attorney's input.
that's fine.
All right.
But that's all I had. I just want to get this thing. It just seems like it's rolling and then it stops.
I keep forgetting all about that.
I know, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
years and years.
And then you get to a spring, it'll go to the spring and all of a sudden everybody goes, oh my God, this is it.
Yeah, here comes the.
That spring is sprung, and we're in trouble.
Yeah, and then Roger will be in and the next one will be in and someone else will be going, it's 8 years. All right, thank you, that's all I had.
All right, so
I have one thing I was just gonna ask. Would it be better for the board members to have a online storage of, for data and attachments, rather than getting
I gotta tell you,
10, 14 emails?
Yeah, when Carol sends stuff to me, my computer's so full with plans and stuff
like having a Dropbox.
A Dropbox, and.
from my business, I can't
Should
open.
be October, I don't know, what today it's 13th, 12th, something like that. October 13th meeting, 12th meeting. And that's one folder in the Dropbox. And everything that we need for this meeting is in that Dropbox. And all you have to do is send out an email and say,
Look at it if
About-
you want.
look at it. Not if you want, look at it.
Right.
Before the meeting. And if you want to write it down.
Like tell Mark.
I've been trying to get that done for 3 years or 4 years. Not to mention the amount of pages of copying and all the work and collating. They save it once, they put it in a file, name the file system, have somebody help them get the file structure correct, and don't just dump everything into the same folder. And then, you know, and it's easy.
So do you know how?
I mean, it's hard to get.
That's what.
Hey, Mark, can you take care of your echo?
There we go. I guess it's a matter of, can people capable of accessing the Dropbox and downloading stuff onto their own computer to look at?
I'm not
Yes.
very computer savvy, so I would have to ask my wife to help out with some of that shit stuff. But I mean, to me, like when you send stuff, when I come in tonight, I was just saying, it's on your computer. Well, what happened is, because I have so much stuff from work and everything else, it loads up my computer, and then when you send a big file,
No,
I can't
kept
open it.
rejecting it, and then I would try just do one at a time.
yeah,
Or
and
two at a
sometimes
time.
I get it, and sometimes I don't, yeah. Yeah,
If you set this up, you don't need to send anything. Nobody needs to send anything to anybody. There's no sending. There's no emailing.
Oh, wow, I didn't see any. It's a pile of them.
I guess if some members want to use a Dropbox, and that's their prerogative.
Well, we
That's
did
fine.
have a Dropbox for a while, but we only had free for a short while, and then it was gonna cost something, so
Well,
that's.
they use it, the budget committee uses it.
We stopped using.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they have something right on.
So is that what?
he uses his own.
You can use a Google Drive, it's the same thing. and it's-
Google Drive. Yeah,
That's fine too.
There's 14 of them, I didn't even see them.
You know, the Terra gig, hard drive, I just had a D or an E.
We just need,
About the computers, we can look into it.
we just need to make sure though that if you do set those up,
Yeah, but
that there's a way. If you can't access it, or if it's, you can't see it, that you have a way to. Do a plan B for some reason, you know what I mean, it's just, because it's. Like today,
I
for
guess the
me,
plan B is if you can't get in there and look at a particular document, you email Carol and say, just email it to me, but.
yeah, but that's the thing, then
we just keep giving
it's a
it
day
to them.
before she gets the email. She may be busy doing something else and not respond to you, so then it gets, you know, so the whole thing.
I guess no one, I haven't seen anyone use a laptop or an iPad or a tablet here at this meeting, and, you know, we review applications for completeness, I mean, how. Without a paper copy, how are we gonna do that?
You make your notes, use them on paper copies and then bring them in.
Well, right now, we get emailed these attachments,
Right,
so
so you already printed out at home. Bring it in?
do you do that now?
No,
No.
Okay.
Copies here,
Okay,
so,
so instead of emailing it to you. With 14 emails,
so she's gonna just use, we're still gonna get the paper copies, we're gonna use a Google Drive, is what you're saying, to cut down on the number of emails, so we know, we don't have to pick through our inbox to find.
correct, your inbox get flooded, right here, 40 attachments.
Let's talk.
You'll get one.
Mark, just put your volume down, I think that's the problem.
He's muted. You get one email that says,
I'll be right back.
I've uploaded all the documents for the next meeting into Dropbox. And then you go on Dropbox, instead of opening 14 emails and clicking 2 attachments and 2 more on the next one and 3 more on the, you go to Dropbox and they're all right there.
Then I don't have an issue doing that.
I don't either. As long as I can get in and get it, I
Yeah,
have no problem.
especially if your mailbox is full, you don't get anything.
Right.
You're like me, you won't tell, put it up for you.
I mean, I can open them up, but I get so much stuff in my work that. My wife's just
Well,
bought
yeah,
another
well,
computer, I keep telling, her, move some stuff around,
Carol
will you?
sends one at 1
Spent
o'clock.
$2,000 on this thing, let's.
Then she sends another one at 1:30, you might have 2 or 3, 4 emails, I don't know, in between, you might lose. You might miss 1 or 2 cows.
Well, it's like tonight, I was trying to cram through all the stuff that was here, because I hadn't seen it on my computer, and I was like, I didn't see any of this. I know she tried to send it, it's just my computer wouldn't take it.
Well, my fantasy is always to send everything at the same time, but. I'll send part of it, then I'll get interrupted, you know, phone call, do this, do that.
But
And then
yeah,
I come back like an hour
I
later.
think you're doing too much work. Before we had the development, the onus was on the developer, bring everything in the night of the meeting. Not piecemeal it, at a little bit at a time.
Well, these guys, look at what these guys brought in, they brought in a lot this time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, we wanted to look at it ahead of time.
We have to.
Right, I mean,
We
how,
really do.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
really, I like to. See it on a Friday, because at least it gives you Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday before, in case you get busy or you're doing something, you know, you take it. I don't know about you guys, but it takes me probably a day to go through that, and then I gotta look at the ordinances and see where it's going. Maybe look through some history that I have and try and figure things out, but if you don't have it. Enough time, or if my computer doesn't accept it, then I'm trying to find Carol, or I say, oh, what did I miss? Well, I'll get a paper copy of it. Well. I get the paper copy the night of the planning board meeting, you know, because I haven't come down to see you, but. It's not. It's really. I mean, we said it one time, we didn't get the paper copies by Friday. Yeah, I think it was OJ that said that.
we wouldn't hear the application.
When we get the application, we can say, we haven't had enough time to study it, and we're gonna continue this.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's depends on the application, you know, but if the board
Okay,
feels
so
they
for
don't,
example, they never give me their application, you know, 12 copies of their application. So
Well, we don't have time, somebody.
all they do is they give you the plan, that's it. So even though I say every single thing that you want them to look at, you need to provide.
yeah, well. I guess if we start saying that you were sorry, we don't have enough information to make a decision, come back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't want to be heavy, you know, I don't want to be heavy handed, I just want it to work efficiently.
I mean, I'm just bringing this up. I'm fine with getting the emails, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
get 14 emails. I looked at them. I looked at every one of them before we had a lot of meeting.
yeah, all you have to do is search for planning when you know this.
Okay, so this is what I would do, I would contact certified, certified and have them set it up so they can use the email. And then if it's a cost, then I eat that in my budget. That's what-
Does Google,
I don't think that, I think you use a certain amount of storage they charge you, but I think for some, I forget how many you get.
yeah, I know Dropbox, you get it for free, you get this much, but I'm thinking that
Well,
your
we have-
files are gonna blow that
Like I
up.
said, we had the Dropbox for a little while. And it had to do with, I think, a lawsuit that we were working on. And then Jane got the notice saying that we were no longer eligible for that must be paid, so. That's when we stopped using the
I
Dropbox.
think one time we did the master plan. use Dropbox too, but
It could be after that.
yeah,
We
but
got
nobody could,
notice.
yeah, nobody could access the damn thing. It wasn't set up right or something.
The Dropbox for the budget committee works. Okay, I mean, I get into that.
You know
some-
how to get into that?
I can get into that. Yeah, if I need a little help, I go to my pro.
Do you know if they pay for that?
What,
The Dropbox?
I think, I don't think they did back then. I think it was free.
No, but who does, is that Mike Simons?
Mike Simons
Uses
does that.
Google Drive, so I don't know, I don't think he pays. I think there's a certain. It's just like a Gmail address. You can have so much storage and you have to pay for your Gmail address.
Well, anyway, I'll have to ask her to find it.
Yeah.
Because basically anything that we do with the computer, we have to have certified.
Well, just, all you have to do is Google how much does Google Drive cost and see what comes up. Sorry,
Let,
What else
let's,
do we have?
let's look into Google Drive.
Yeah.
See if we can get something set up that can be uploaded instead of the multiple.
You can get more Google Drive for $10 a month than you could use for the entire just about United States planning department. I mean, I get 2 terabytes for $10 a month. I think it is
We can afford
Terabytes. Terabytes. So you don't need 2 terabytes for this. You know, it's very cheap.
Sounds like a direction.
all right. All right,
Perfect.
so one more thing, conceptual, I just, what's that? I didn't hear it anyway, so. So GH Pizza, the owners would like to do some expansion in the back. We don't have anything, to actually haven't had time to get an engineer or anything, just want to kind of get some thoughts from the board. You know, either a gift shop in the back corner with the seating, gift shop where the back corner is, and then possibly a single cabin in the back.
Do I have that?
Well, this is GH Pizza, so this is the pizza place, it's the ice cream stand. This is the back lot, actually,
It's where the parking is in the
where the
back.
parking is in the back.
It's all
Yeah.
paved.
So in this corner here, they have the seating, so maybe out here, a small gift shop. Or then over here, a cabin, a rental cabin.
Do they have enough parking?
We haven't figured that out yet, I'm just saying before we spend any money on an engineer. Or,
So it'll be a residence and it'll be a commercial.
right, but,
It's a combination.
right, well, but
And it's in the general use.
general use, I mean,
Oh, village
Is it
center.
Village Center?
Village center.
village center, excuse me, so
Village
they are,
center.
you know, they are allowed uses, but, you know, I don't know how you. Feel with the residential cabin, I mean, it would be, you know, a manager's cabin, you know, all the hotels and motels on Route 3, they all have owners' quarters. You know, I mean, if we don't want to put 2 structures, perhaps we could put the rental over the gift shop.
Been back there?
What's that?
Have you been back there?
Yeah.
Much room.
You get a good piece of wood there, and you can put it on.
Yep, that's where his seating is.
The side
His
seat.
seating. He's gonna squeeze a lot on that one lot when it gets pretty busy. There's a lot of cars. There's not a lot of room.
Big loop there, there's always
Of course,
cars going.
you know,
round
they're a
and round and
takeout
round.
restaurant, so they do have a lot of parking, I mean, they don't have that many tables.
But the ice cream place is there too.
There's people that live in a big house there.
Right, I mean, obviously, we'd make the parking. Work, but I mean, just is the use something, that, you know, the board would consider. I mean, I don't have,
Problem with the use, it's all.
yeah, but I mean, we can make the site plan,
But it's setbacks, parking.
right, usual
Traffic
things.
flow, all of that stuff it looks like it's gonna be hard to configure that onto that lot. I mean. Take up
Not even room to park.
a space with a gift shop, and then if you. Put the residential aspect separate from that instead of on top of it, you're taking up more floor
Yeah.
space.
Mhm.
But I mean, if they can come up with a plan that meets all the parking requirements. I mean, the house is gonna need 2 parking spaces, the gift shop is gonna need
Depends on the square footage,
per every 300 square feet.
plus an employee.
Plus an employee, and then you're gonna have the pizza place at for every 4 seats, they need a parking space
yeah.
plus an employee.
Plus an employee.
Plus
And
everybody.
the ice cream place has,
The ice cream place, same thing, and
That's a separate lot. Not contiguous.
Right, separate lot.
the ice cream is?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do they share their parking though?
Well, I mean, it's all, I mean, no, it hasn't, the site hasn't gone through site plan review, so, so, I don't know.
The
That'll never work.
separate lot or no separate lot, if it's a shared parking lot,
it all comes up. one.
both properties gotta have total enough parking to handle both properties. And the restaurant, both of them have takeout. So like the ice cream place, how many seats does it have?
None.
Okay,
Okay, but there's nothing in the
Well,
ordinance.
that's not true. It has outside seating.
True.
Picnic
But-
table.
But they also own, do they own where McGee's restaurant used to be across the street?
Yes, but I think they wouldn't, they prefer not to, not to tie that in or put an easement for parking on it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. They could
Yeah,
use that
I
for
mean-
extra parking. If they
I
really
think
want,
that,
if they really wanted to do it, then they might have to do that, just like Dennis had this over
yeah,
here.
but I think,
I was thinking the
I
place
can't
down
speak
there.
for them, but I think that lot is too valuable to use just for parking.
Like across from the gypsy. That's the one I was thinking of. Ice cream place,
Oh, oh,
pizza.
oh,
So then
joint.
they just gotta make, they gotta see if they can make it fit.
Bottom line now. I was
All
thinking,
the
how
uses
the hell
that they
do we
want.
do that?
Wait, I didn't catch that, Steve?
How's that the wrong pizza place and ice cream joint? Right here. I think that would be impossible, but that's
Okay.
probable down there.
That way maybe leaving.
So I would point out that, the ordinance doesn't specify parking for a takeout restaurant.
No, it has to be considered.
Also, think about it.
I mean, that's true, but I mean, just,
Yeah, I mean, because we start loading up Main Street there and then
Yeah.
it's gonna be a mess down there,
Yes,
especially with that big hotel right beside, yeah.
Yes, if the case to it, actually, if you could put some kind of apartments in the barn up back. And then back of the Kakamani store.
Well, tell him
Yeah.
to talk to us when he wants to talk to us.
That's two different.
I mean, I think that they just gotta take a look at the square footages and what
Right,
they
no, I
got.
understand that, but I
and
mean-
say,
Unless,
like I said, and if.
I mean, we're certainly not objectionable to it, it doesn't sound like, it's just, they need to make sure that they can
Yeah.
meet the requirements.
Okay,
Unless it's
I guess the
abandoned
question
lot.
is,
Or
Question
ask
is-
for a variance.
the question is, would you require 15,000 square feet for that cabin if it was separate?
Ooh,
You're right. It's residential.
Right, but on the other
But if
hand,
it's a combined, if they have the apartment above the thrift store,
right, of course, odds are that cabin is gonna be a manager's cabin, part of the, ancillary use to the business.
yeah, I know, but you can't, that business could go and it could, the new owners, who, if it got sold, may not be using it for that, so you gotta.
Again, all the properties on Route 3, they have owner's quarters that you're not deducted 15,000 square feet for. Riverbank Motel built the house right on the lot. We didn't chunk off 15,000 square feet for that house.
Wow. Didn't see that one
Right,
coming.
and I understand it's not binding, but just kind of, they don't want to spend money on engineering, obviously, if there's no chance of
They
passing.
got a better chance there than they do the place I was thinking of the first time. That would have been impossible.
Seems to me like they're putting an awful lot on a small piece of lot.
Mhm.
That's what it
It's
seems.
fine, I'll take it back to them.
the thing is, you can't get any more land. We're stuck in a hot spot in the rock.
Well, so I know, but that's not the problem of the ordinance, it's the problem of the landowner who says, I got the small piece of property and I wanna just develop the whole thing, and then it doesn't meet, and then someone else comes in and says, you let him do it, how come I can't have it now? That's where we get stuck, it's not that we don't want
No, I
everybody to have what they
understand that. I
can.
mean, like I said, we don't want to draw something up and say, what are you thinking?
They
Okay.
should be able to hire somebody to preliminarily look at it and see if it meets the.
Like I said, I didn't have time, you know,
Right.
get the engineer, but they want, well, can you bring it up? Like, yeah, all right, I'll bring it up.
I think the big question is are we gonna require 15,000 square feet just for the residential part?
Exactly.
And then try to squeeze everything else on the what's left, because
They ain't gonna
Then
happen.
it won't work.
you know, I mean, if we're gonna require 15,000 square feet, let's just say no. I think, you know, there's some multi-use places, yes, up in Route 3, but other places. Like right next door, there's that, you know, there was someone living behind the Kink Market. Back there,
That house in the back.
the house in the back.
Yeah,
That was John's house originally.
There's, I mean, there's Alpine, there's an apartment on site there. I mean, just get on the
you got the
street,
Mexican restaurant across the street that has an apartment above.
okay, there's other places
There's an apartment at,
Nachos,
upstairs,
I believe there is, yeah.
I believe so,
oh, right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking about El Charos, no, that's,
I thought you were talking about.
No, not
there's
this
a
one.
couple that lives up on the roof.
Thinking,
Mhm.
Okay,
I know what you're talking.
I mean, that's my big
I would
question.
be open to considering it a multi-use.
Yeah.
Or mixed use, I guess you call it,
Why would they put the apartment up over the restaurant
Well,
and then,
or over the gift shop, if you're gonna build.
well, I mean,
that'd be
if
the
they go over the restaurant, there's a lot of mechanicals up there. See air conditioner and.
Right,
you know,
but you're sharing off a good roof to put on a different good roof as opposed to if you're building new,
well, yeah,
gift shop,
Yeah.
apartment.
if they built it up over it, then it. You know, it gives them a little more flexibility, so.
They're gonna call me at the time at Amanda's office, to oversight, that will see the property, it's like they do,
Right.
like they do in,
And if they built it up over the gift shop and the gift shop didn't do any good, they could always make another apartment downstairs.
Isn't that little piece of land in the corner they could dig out where the trees are and all?
I think that's what they're.
That's,
talking
that's,
about.
Talking about
yeah.
that?
Mhm. Yeah,
I mean, I think the outdoor seating back, that's where they have the outdoor seating, right, in that corner?
so it's, yeah, mhm,
part of it, so not the whole thing.
yeah, part of it, but,
I mean. I think that's an asset to their place,
right, the outdoor seating.
the outdoor seating,
Mhm.
You know, because like
That's, yeah,
the
but
rest
I
of
mean,
it's all
you know,
asphalt.
But we talked,
but I mean, that's it.
we talked one time about we're losing so much green space on Main Street and all the businesses, you know. We lose. It's pretty much gone. I mean, I remember when Subway was here. Who was the planning guy that, who hit up the village? What was his name?
I know.
Oh, Bob Perot?
No,
Resnick,
the guy. That lived up at the village, I was the chair of the planning board,
Tom Adams.
Tom Adams.
oh,
Yeah,
He used to fight tooth and nail about green space, and when they built that subway, made sure. He didn't even want the picnic tables out front because of the trees, and he didn't want to cut them.
Well, actually, that was vacant, because it was separate, there's no parking, but
I know,
Purple Hoop
but-
bought the building.
But now it, right, and then they changed hands over there, and then all those, there used to be trees over there in front of it, now they're all gone. And it just goes to what you're saying about that being an amenity to the way it is now, but I suppose it's their land, whatever they want to do to it.
Cause you take like your prime Lincoln's, Lincoln Square, increase your plants, they could be dead in 5 years due to the salt on the road.
Whatever they want to do to it, I suppose they can. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I just. What I would be opposed to is if it impacts. Traffic on Main Street. Or something like
That's what
that,
we do to
because
impact traffic in Main Street.
Yeah.
This loving on the units across, he's gonna impact it big time, we'll get 2 roads. one
I'm
in,
talking
one
about
out.
whether they would be trying to park cars on the side. We don't want to encourage any more Main Street. Parking
parking.
for businesses, because I think what's gonna happen here. Is that's gonna all go away, and it's not gonna
They
be.
already told us it's going to.
In too long of a period of time, I think, keep having weekends like this, I think
This-
the
I mean,
state's gonna come in and say something.
On Saturday, they were getting off at exit 33 and coming down Route 3.
Traffic was back all the way up to Tim's garage. They
Really?
stopped in front of Tim's garage,
No,
and wait to try
yeah.
left at Clark's Trading Post.
Yeah.
Well, I heard it was backed up on Pollard Road, and then all the way up almost,
Everywhere.
Whole way.
all the way up to the,
But
but
again,
one weekend.
I remember back before they built the interstate.
Oh, yeah.
Parker's Motel.
Oh, yeah.
People were parked in front of Parker's Motel to try to get on.
We used to sit out in the
exit
mark, and
So it's
you
not
you
like.
could sit there and drink 2 6-packs, and place will be.
It's not like it's new, it's the same.
That's in the dark.
Weekend
We got other
every
stuff.
year.
You couldn't walk across from three, there was so much traffic.
Yeah.
Four
Right.
ninety-three went in, it
Before 93
was
went in.
just
Yeah.
like trying to cross the superhighway, there's no
Oh,
way
yeah.
to do it.
So.
You know, the traffic backed up from.
Well, we're supposed to be getting better, I think, not
So,
worse.
Thank you for the.
My thought on that is, mixed use, but.
So
Taking
probably,
care of the parking is gonna be a
yeah,
huge issue.
it's like, yeah, that's fine, so I think.
I think that's, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I mean, so probably, putting the residential unit over the gift shop, be the better,
Would certainly allow for more parking.
right? Mhm.
Yeah.
But he's still gonna need enough parking for the residential unit, the new gift shop and the pizza place.
Yeah.
And you can't ignore the ice cream stand, whether it's on the same lot or not.
Well, a lot of people, they have their pizza and they walk over for an ice cream.
True. But there's a lot of people who stop me at an ice cream and need a place to park,
Yeah,
and they're not getting pizza.
I'll tell you what, when I go there to get an ice cream, I park in that where McGee's restaurant is, because it's the easiest place to park.
Yeah. Mhm.
You can't get in, I mean, you just,
But they don't control that, do they?
They own it.
they own it.
They own it, oh, okay.
But again, I think that's,
They don't want to put that in this mix.
right, I think that's, they have no plans for that. To near term. I don't think they want to encumber that lot with parking.
They should encumber that lot with the
Right.
gift shop and
Well,
residential.
again, I think,
Yeah.
I think to build on that lot, they'd have to build something more substantial than a gift shop, but.
Just late, states also get designated right away, goes through my property, going across to the back of Goodwood Road, right up to the state land on the other side, right on the state map.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Carol,
okay.
go home.
Yeah, nice, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Yeah, we're looking so interested, Carol, I think you might want to go.
Wait to see what they're gonna do on
Yeah,
the
I
free
think so.
connection road.
Thank you, good night.
They trying to put all the land for the road going in.
Thanks, Mark.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm sending Carol some hate mail about the prices of these storage platforms. They're all the same, and they would all work just fine.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Hi, Marina.
Well.
Carol? If you don't know, come 381 right? And by, Park Road. Stay right by, right up, put you up, until the last river.
Yes, Steve.
See
See you later.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
They get there, no, Main Street, they get the way highway. They don't park it. They don't think so. Is that Jimmy?
What's that?
They bought land at 3/8 corner,
Yeah,
go right across, come up with one file.
Susan, you've been there all this time, or you just come back on?
I've been here.
Okay,
Hi, Susan.
Hi. I
nice.
had to go step out for a little bit early on, but the rest I've been sitting and watching and listening.
Okay, I didn't see you.
But
in here.
nice.
Did you want to say anything, public participation?
In public participation, yeah, I mean, for the budget committee, we use the Google Drive, and the nice thing is you only need one email to have the location. And then no matter when things are added, you can access it. So if you check at the day of the meeting, then you got everything, and if you-
Right.
you
When
know,
are
so
you
that,
coming back to the budget committee?
say again?
When are you coming back to the budget?
Not yet.
All right,
I'm supervisor of the checklist now, so I've got that and zoning.
all right. Well, you have my vote if you want to come back.
All right, you guys still short one?
Yeah, it'll be short tomorrow night.
Yeah.
See you later.
All right, we'll see you.
Hi, Susan.
Bye. Yes.